Chapter 546. As Yen Zhaoga's palm descended, it was as though the heavens were collapsing and the earth was collapsing. Shun Shiqing could be considered a peak figure amongst the late essence talisman martial grandmasters of the vast ocean world. However, faced with this palm of Yen Zhaoga's, he was still powerless. That terrifying power of the cyclic heavenly seal enveloped the surrounding area, causing him to feel like he could only close his eyes and accept his death. The surrounding vast ocean world martial practitioners all watched this scene in shock, seeing the chief of the Blood Dragon sect, Shun Shiqing, having his head splattered apart by Yen Zhaoga's palm as he breathed his last. The Blood Dragon sect martial practitioners exclaimed in shock. Yen Zhaoga nonchalantly turned to look at them. What? A sorrowful look surfaced in Shun Ying's eyes as she closed them, not speaking. The lips of the Blood Dragon sect martial practitioners trembled as they looked at Yen Zhaoga, unable to speak. You're thinking that he is your chief at the end of the day. Even if there is a problem, it should be an internal trial of your sect before a decision is made. Yen Zhaoga said mildly, I feel that you should be considering what your sect should do from here on out. Don't forget that your sect was destroyed by Lin Qiancheng and the others. The faces of the Blood Dragon sect martial practitioners instantly turned snow white. They had naturally not forgotten this matter. It was just that the matter of Shun Shiqing and his daughter plotting everything, even assassinating Nian Chen, had been too sensational, causing them who knew the truth to be rather confused. Reminded by Yen Zhaoga at this moment, everyone recalled that their Blood Dragon sect was truly at a critical juncture of life and death. Nian Chen had died, Shun Shiqing had died, and the elders and disciples of the Blood Dragon sect who had stayed behind had most likely been decimated by the evil experts. Of the entire Blood Dragon sect, there were probably only those over at the star-shifting sea left. Yet they were already a group of dragons without a leader, having lost their foundation as they were like duckweed. Unstable was insufficient to describe the current tragic state of the Blood Dragon sect. With a foundation of 1,000 years, one of the exalted 7 pillars of good, one of the peak sacred grounds of the vast ocean world, it was already on the verge of collapse as it faced the threat of being exterminated at any moment. Yen Zhaoga ignored the people of the Blood Dragon sect, instead swiveling his head to look at those of the other sects, smiling as compared to abducting someone, something like killing one's master seems to be a bigger problem, right? Everyone nodded silently as Yen Zhaoga continued. Let's first not talk about the matter of him slaying his master first. Shun Shiqing and his daughter, for their own selfishness, stirred up such a huge storm. Not only playing us like fools, they even gave the forces of evil a chance, implicating countless lives. I killed such a person with a single palm strike. What do you all think? The group exchanged glances, with the person of Changli Mountain being the first to say, it is naturally to everyone's satisfaction. Among the people from the other sects, it was the people from Myriad Sword Pool who spoke up, such treacherous people deserve to die. The others all voiced their agreement, while those of the Blood Dragon sect looked as if they had lost their parents, unable to raise their heads. But they did not forget the most important thing. They all looked up at the 9 dragon fingers floating in the air. After all, the 9 dragon fingers is, at the end of the day, it is my spoils of war. I will reluctantly accept it. As for how to deal with it afterwards, this Yen will naturally slowly think about it. You all need not worry too much about it. His hands behind his back, Yen Zhaoga scanned the entire area. Those who met his gaze all felt a chill within their hearts. Even though they were filled with infinite unwillingness looking at Yen Zhaoga and the Northern Ocean clone by the side now, they were also unable to speak. The preciousness of sacred artifacts did not need to be said. It was not just those of the Blood Dragon sect. How could those of the other sects not think about it as well? If they could not obtain it, they also did not wish for others to obtain it. However, having been swept by Yan Zhaoge's icy cold gaze at this moment, their courage involuntarily dissipated completely. In today's battle, Yan Zhaoge had single-handedly beaten them into submission, even having grasped the heavens and earth as he had exposed the truth of what had happened earlier. All the spectators were greatly shocked as they found it hard to arouse any will to resist. Yan Zhaoge would not be able to wield the sacred artifact, the 9 dragon fingers, within a short period of time. He had suppressed it together with the strange combination of the pillar and beam of the divine palace, barely keeping it. Seeing the 9 dragon fingers vanish, those by the side could not help but swallow their saliva, feeling incomparably despondent. Yan Zhaoge now swiveled his head to look at Shenning. No need to think too much about it. I even slapped your father to death with a single palm, much less you who started the fire. Shenning opened her mouth, wanting to say something. However, Yan Zhaoge completely ignored her as he looked at Shi Jun, saying calmly, "Jun, you deal with it. Where it began, where it ended. You, Shenning, and Nian Wei started it. Nian Wei is already dead, and there are only the 2 of you left. End it." The Northern Ocean clone extended his palm, light flickering as it directly swept Shi Jun, and shunning along with it, the 2 vanishing into the palm of the Northern Ocean clone. The lips of the others twitched, but none of them objected. The expressions of those of the Blood Dragon sect were complex, but more of them felt like their hatred had been vented within. They had all been veterans of the world for many years. Yet, having been schemed against by a little girl, they all felt ashamed to see anyone as they felt the urge to just bang their heads against the wall and die. Yan Zhaoge's expression was tranquil as he sent a sound transmission to Su Fei. "Senior apprentice brother Su, what do you think Jun will do?" Su Fei asked instead of answering. "If Jun chooses to let her go, what will you do, Zhaoge?" Yan Zhaoge smiled. "When my Northern Ocean clone captured her, a hidden force was already buried within her body, ready to erupt at any time." Su Fei looked at Yan Zhaoge. Yan Zhaoge said mildly, "Speaking from the bottom of my heart, not considering our standpoints, I rather cherish this girl's talent. Facing me, facing a bunch of martial grandmasters, she still did not reveal any flaws on the surface at all. Even her emotions were as calm as water, not having any fluctuations at all, as we were unable to sense any pretense at all. Her performance was virtually perfect. Her martial talent and character aside, such mental fortitude is truly hard to come by. Frankly speaking, if I were placed in the same environment and conditions as her, I would not be confident of doing better than her." Yan Zhaoge smiled. "The problem is that I never speak of cherishing talent to my enemies." Su Fei sighed. "Jun won't blame you." He glanced at the others as well. The people of the Blood Dragon sect will not let her off first, and the martial world of good will not tolerate her as well. Yan Zhaoge said, "I know what Jun will do. I have an 80% certainty of it. I am just a little worried about how this matter will affect him afterwards." Swiveling his head to glance at Su Fei, Yan Zhaoge considered his words for a moment, saying this might be a little disrespectful to eldest apprentice uncle and senior apprentice brother Shi. Still, they really are 3 generations after all. Deep within the bloodline of the Shi family lies some stubbornness and viciousness that surpasses that of ordinary people. In eldest apprentice uncle, it is strict and upright, firm and unyielding. In senior apprentice brother Shi, it is extreme and stubborn, not regretting it even in death. Yan Zhaoge smacked his lips. "Jun is still young now, only able to see some embryonic forms. I wonder how he will develop into in the end." Hearing his words, Su Fei did not speak, but did not object either. Yan Zhaoge's gaze suddenly flickered. The Northern Ocean clone opened his palm. To be continued. Chapter 547. Virtually everyone unconsciously gazed at the Northern Ocean clone. The Northern Ocean clone opened his palm, light surging as a figure surfaced. There was only the figure of a single person. Jun, seeing this scene, many thoughts flashed through everyone's minds. "Calm your heart," Yen Zhaoge said calmly. Jun was uncharacteristically silent as he nodded soundlessly. Seeing this, Yen Zhaoge exchanged glances with Xue Fei, both knowing that Jun had invested his feelings towards shunning over the past few days. Jun hated evil as his foe, crying out against injustice as he felt pity towards the weak. These were all true. However, he had a strong personality. If someone had tricked and schemed against him, after he had learned of the truth, it would only result in an intense backlash. Like Yen Zhaoge and Xue Fei, Jun was also someone who did not make a move, but when he did, his fists did not care whether his opponent was male or female. Therefore, Jun did not feel conflicted at all when dealing with someone who had tricked and schemed against him. Whether or not the other party was a woman, whether or not she was acting pitiful, he would not show any mercy. His rather silent appearance now was because Shun Ying's current position in his heart was not ordinary. She was not just someone whom he had lent a helping hand to in the face of injustice. In such a situation, discovering the truth of the matter in the end would be even more hurtful, at the same time making him feel even more resentful. No one knew how Shun Ying had behaved in front of Jun. She had looked calm and resigned to her death, as if she had finally no longer had to suffer the torment of her heart, even feeling somewhat like she was atoning for her sins. She had indeed schemed against Jun in the past. However, as the two of them had interacted privately over the past few days, she had also fallen in love with him. Gradually unable to bear it, looking like she was about to cry, her heart like it had died, not saying a word as she closed her eyes and awaited death. There were also various other methods. Yen Zhaoge instantly thought of quite a few. As for those methods of crying bitterly to the heavens and the earth, swearing and swearing in defense of herself, Yen Zhaoge did not consider them at all, also not feeling that Shining would do such a thing given her mental state. However, whether it was Yen Zhaoge or Xue Fei, neither of them asked Jun about the specifics. Xue Fei only patted his disciple's shoulder lightly. The surrounding martial practitioners of the other great sects had yet to disperse, all looking at Yen Zhaoge somewhat expectantly, yet also not having too much hope. The martial practitioners of Water Crystal Palace and the Spirit Returning Sect were all secretly sending sound transmissions to the Changli Mountain martial practitioners, clearly hoping to plead on their behalf. Looking at Yen Zhaoge, the leading Changli Mountain elder saw that Yen Zhaoge's gaze was gentle as he calmly met his gaze. This Changli Mountain elder's heart jolted slightly as he came to some understanding. He is giving our sect a favor by having Water Crystal Palace, and the other sects owe our Changli Mountain a favor. Although this person is domineering and arrogant, and his methods are ruthless and cruel, he is not an arrogant and unreasonable person. As he pondered, this Changli Mountain elder bowed solemnly towards Yen Zhaoge. The forces of evil are rampant. Now that the Tao is waning and the devils are on the rise, I hope that Mr. Yen can lend a helping hand and help the common people. Yen Zhaoge nodded slowly. For the sake of the common people, this Yen will naturally act. Having finally received Yen Zhaoge's declaration, the group of people finally let out a breath of relief. Yen Zhaoge smiled. Rest easy, everyone. The forces of evil will not be able to overturn the heavens. Now that he was still saying this, the group of people gradually realized this as well, feeling that Yen Zhaoge had a card up his sleeve. Yen Zhaoge said, "Let's go." Saying thus, he led them on their way. Actually, to Yen Zhaoge, while he seemed to have many enmities with the forces of good in the vast ocean world, he was indeed more inclined towards good. This had nothing to do with the difference between good and evil in name. Cultivating in certain martial arts was also not directly related to one's moral character. The forces of good similarly had despicable people. The forces of evil similarly had heroes. However, on the other hand, it was not that those of the forces of good were all hypocrites. There were also many people of the forces of evil who were extremely vicious and evil, committing crimes. The reason why Yan Zhaoge was more inclined towards the forces of good in general was that, in terms of cultivation methods at least, the martial arts of the forces of evil were more bloody and brutal. Many martial arts of the forces of evil required blood as a sacrifice, sacrificing the lives of a great number of ordinary people. Taking the vast ocean world as an example, for the martial arts of soul-shocking island to be accomplished, they would have to slaughter a great number of living people, merging their souls into their orochi and true essence on the spot. The illusory shadow demonic art of the sacred evil sect plundered the life essence of others to cultivate in. Green Snake Island reared tens of thousands of snakes, feeding on human flesh. The evil shifting sect cultivated in the profound dark saber chi aside, cultivating in the blood sea saber chi, as its name suggested, was to obtain the blood of others to refine the saber. The dim shifting white bone saber similarly had to refine the yin chi of human bones. The Dragon Slayer sect and the Brilliant Thunder sect, who were more open and above board in their ways, had all slaughtered their way out of mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Of all the martial arts of the forces of evil that Yan Zhaoge knew of, not many of them were easy to deal with. The Six Spirits demonic fist, despite being called a demonic fist, was actually already rather grand and gentle. However, the true best method of cultivating in it was to obtain the essence blood of those 6 types of spirit beasts to temper one's body. Yan Zhaoge felt that his benevolence and moral integrity were rather limited. Still, he still felt repulsed by most supreme martial arts of the forces of evil. Brought along by Yan Zhaoge, the others didn't know where to go for the time being, as they could only wait patiently. Sitting side by side with his disciple, Xue Fei swiveled his head to look at Shi Jun. He saw that Shi Jun's expression was already gradually beginning to return to normal. It was just that Shi Jun's gaze was somewhat vacant. Feeling his master's gaze, Shi Jun swiveled his head to look at Xue Fei, asking softly, "Master, did I do wrong this time? Being made use of by someone, I nearly caused a great disaster." Xue Fei shook his head, first saying, "Acting bravely when seeing injustice on the road is always the right thing to do. Sometimes when the situation is urgent, there is no time for us to consider too much, requiring us to act decisively." Looking at his disciple, he said evenly, "However, it is precisely at times like this that you have to be more careful. Your opponent may have set up a trap, possibly distorting the truth. Sometimes we may even encounter situations where right and wrong are not so clear." The other party's target this time was actually Zhaoge. You have no need to blame yourself for scheming against you. Your way of doing things is not wrong. However, you still have to be more careful in the process of doing things. Shi Jun nodded. "Disciple will remember." He swiveled his head to look at Yan Zhaoge, saying softly, "This time it was all thanks to little senior apprentice Uncle Yan. I know that it was because he didn't want me to bear the burden of having my reputation tarnished, fearing that I wouldn't be able to get over this. That little senior apprentice uncle, Yan, used such a troublesome method to help me clear my name." Shi Jun smiled. "Otherwise, if it was Uncle Master himself, I'm afraid he would have just started killing. What's there to argue about?" Hearing this, Xue Fei could not help but smile. Now, Yan Zhaoge's group suddenly received a message. The chief of Myriad Sword Pool, Yan Gang, reinforced Water Crystal Palace with the sacred artifact, the floating sinking sword. The evil Saint Lin Qianqing suddenly retreated, his whereabouts unknown. The chief of Water Crystal Palace, Lin Shi, and the chief of Myriad Sword Pool, Yen Gang, engaged in a great battle against the chief of the Dragon Slayer sect, Zhao Zhong, and the chief of Soul Shocking Island, Lu Shua. The crisis of the Crystal Palace could basically be said to have been resolved. Hearing his words, everyone was taken aback before they simultaneously looked towards Yen Zhaoga. Lin Qianqing chose the most advantageous path for himself, Yen Zhaoga said. The Changli Mountain elder asked hesitantly, "But where will Lin Qianqing go?" Yen Zhaoga smiled slightly. "Right now, we are precisely going to stop him." Chapter 548. Hearing Yen Zhaoga's words, everyone was taken aback. Trying to determine the direction in which they were currently traveling, their hearts all jolted slightly. "If we head in this direction from the star-shifting sea," Yen Zhaoga said mildly, "the evil Saint Lin Qianqing is a rather rational person. As compared to his personal likes and dislikes, he would consider the size of his benefits more. At the very least, before his strength is sufficient to sweep through the vast ocean world as he pleases, he would consider what is most beneficial to him in his actions. Enmity arose between me and him, with the blood dragon sex Nianchun and the 9 dragon fingers leading the way. He did not choose to act because he did not have sufficient confidence in keeping me here," Yen Zhaoga said as he gazed into the distance. "Therefore, he did not come over to the star-shifting sea. With Lin Qianqing's personality, there would definitely be something that would attract him in his collaboration with the Dragon Slayer sect and Soul Shocking Island. Still, while the forces of good appeared hollow due to their conflict with Yen Zhaoga, they were also not so easily destroyed. Even if those of the forces of evil could successfully sweep through the forces of good, what would Lin Qianqing gain from this? Being able to obtain the sacred artifact, the floating sinking sword, or the 9 dragon fingers would be the best outcome. However, Lin Qianqing would similarly have to face competition from the Dragon Slayer sect and Soul Shocking Island. How could he ensure that he would be able to defeat the #1 expert of the vast ocean world, the slaying 7 seas Zhao Zhong, as well as Lu Shua, who possessed the sacred artifact, the Soul Shocking Box? The first problem that Lin Qianqing had to face was that his period of weakness was about to arrive. At that time, it would already be very good if he was not taken advantage of by others. With the forces of good having been swept through, the major sects of evil would definitely be fighting it out. How would Lin Qianqing be able to suppress them all and ascend to the peak? At the end of the day, there was a very high possibility that this chief of the sacred evil sect would end up benefiting others. Since that is so, while this offensive of sweeping through the forces of good this time is beneficial to the forces of evil, it would not be much for Lin Qianqing. He might as well have come to the vicinity of the star-shifting sea and joined forces with Nianchun to attack me, Yen Zhaoga said. Since he has given up on this chance, joining forces with the other experts of evil would only be a pretense to conceal his true objective. At any time, improving yourself is the most direct and most important thing. If this is a great fortuitous opportunity that Lin Qianqing has grasped and others have less understanding of, then he will definitely try to obtain this fortuitous opportunity to strengthen himself. Hearing this, the others gradually understood. The bewildering maze sea. Yen Zhaoga nodded. That's right, it is precisely the bewildering maze sea. The previous time, Chief Yen of Myriad Sword Pool, and I messed things up. This time, with Nianchun finding trouble with me, with Water Crystal Palace joining hands with Myriad Sword Pool to fight the Dragon Slayer sect and Soul Shocking Island, there just happened to be no one to interfere with him. Now is the best time for him to go to the bewildering maze sea to obtain treasures. It's easy, and there's a high chance of success. With treasures in his bag, he'll be able to increase his strength and accumulate an advantage when facing others in the future. While Yen Zhaoga's expression was very calm, the hearts of the others were in turmoil. Evil Saint Lin Qianqing had probably miscalculated this time. It was not just Yen Zhaoga who had directly determined Lin Qianqing's movements. hurrying over to the bewildering Maze Sea after having taken care of Nianchen and the others. At the same time, it was also because the earlier battle between Nianchen and Yan Zhaoge had not taken up too much of his time. This was related to Yan Zhaoge's personal style. His attacks were sharp and domineering, even against opponents of similar cultivation bases. Victory would often be decided within a very short period of time, life and death being decided. In the time it took for sparks to fly off a flint, victory would often be decided. As soon as victory was established, it would be as easy as breaking dry twigs, as there would rarely be a prolonged battle. While it seemed nonchalant, the dangers involved were only clear to those involved. Therefore, when Yan Zhaoge clashed with others, most of the time his opponents would either die or be injured. Such a martial style was not stable enough. However, against opponents who were inferior to him, it would be even more efficient, as it would easily result in a crushing victory. Yan Zhaoge also had the ability to do meticulous and patient work. However, with his personality, he did not like that kind of slow and meticulous fighting style. Therefore, he would not use it lightly. As Yan Zhaoge's group neared the bewildering Maze Sea, there were already some martial practitioners who had entered and exited the bewildering Maze Sea who had detected abnormalities. At this, they all heaved a sigh of relief. Yan Zhaoge's judgment had been correct. This feeling, why does it feel like the chi of true dragons? Yan Zhaoge looked at the layers of bewildering mist of the bewildering Maze Sea before him that roiled unceasingly, the clouds within gradually turning ethereal as a majestic, authoritative feeling emanated from them. Within the acupoints of Yan Zhaoge's entire body, the essence of the ice dragon that had still yet to be completely refined felt restless at this moment, vaguely being drawn over by the existence before them. This Yen will enter within. You can flank him from the outside. Today's matter may be a decisive battle for Lin Qiancheng. His sacred evil sect's few big and small cats that are usually nowhere to be seen may all be mobilized this time. Hearing his words, the other good martial practitioners who had come here along with Yan Zhaoge all agreed with this. Yan Zhaoge looked at Su Fei and Shi Jun, the two of them nodding towards him. Then Yan Zhaoge brought along the Northern Ocean clone, directly stepping into the clouds of the bewildering Maze Sea. The bewildering fog before them was even denser than when Yan Zhaoge had first entered the bewildering Maze Sea after having first come to the vast ocean world. The deeper they went, the denser the clouds became, the roars of dragons actually vaguely emanating from within. As Yan Zhaoge walked within, he could only feel as though there were countless true dragons resting amidst the dense fog before him. Oh, could it be that the fortuitous encounter that this Lin Qiancheng is looking for is also that legendary burial ground of numerous dragons entering the sea? Seeing this, Yan Zhaoge guessed. The black-clothed, middle-aged man, recorded in the light projection of the great beam of the divine palace, had ultimately never returned, his whereabouts unknown. It was unknown whether he had returned to the world beyond worlds due to urgent matters, or whether he had ultimately perished in the vast ocean world. However, when Yan Zhaoge had seemingly unintentionally asked the vast ocean world martial practitioners about this earlier, most of them had said that they had never heard of this black-clothed, middle-aged man. It was to be expected that the black-clothed, middle-aged man had concealed his tracks. If he had died in the vast ocean world, he should not have died somewhere outside. Instead, he should have died in some mysterious place that others would be hard-pressed to find and set foot in. This burial ground of numerous dragons entering the sea was the most likely in this vast ocean world. From a material perspective, it was precisely this legendary place that Yan Zhaoge was most interested in. As they advanced, the Northern Ocean clone's gaze abruptly flickered before he directly shot out along with Yan Zhaoge. The fog was instantly ripped apart, yet there was still nothing amidst space. However, the Northern Ocean clone directly punched towards the air. The fog there abruptly distorted, seeming to be dyed by a layer of ink as it transformed into a black shadow. It was none other than the evil Saint Lin Qiancheng. The Northern Ocean clone's fist had yet to come into contact with him when a gust of wind assaulted his face. Lin Qiancheng's figure shook slightly. Yan Zhaoge said calmly, "Today is the 11th of this month. You are currently in a weakened state, and we are enemies rather than friends. I will not stand on ceremony and beat you when you are down. Thank you, thank you." Chapter 549. Yan Zhaoge's Northern Ocean clone extended his arms, a heavenly cloud of the Northern Ocean divine's spear stabbing towards Lin Qiancheng. After all, the spear forged from evil shifting sect Master Feng Jingsheng's spine, and white bone essence energy was not a real weapon, and could only be used temporarily. But at this moment, he was using his fists as a spear, fusing his spear technique into his fist technique. It was also very majestic. Lin Qiancheng cultivated in the illusory shadow demonic art, and fighting head-on was not his forte to begin with. Now that he was in a weakened state, he was even less able to withstand the sharpness of the Northern Ocean divine spear. Where the tip of the spear surged, Lin Qiancheng's body that resembled a black shadow instantly shook like water, as if about to be torn apart. He didn't dare to stay here any longer. He transformed into balls of black shadows and fled swiftly into the distance, fleeing towards the depths of the bewildering maze sea. Yan Zhaoge's eyes narrowed into slits, but he did not halt as he directed the Northern Ocean clone to continue his pursuit. Even at his peak, Lin Qiancheng would still be inferior to Yan Zhaoge's Northern Ocean clone in terms of pure speed. Therefore, while he tried to escape, he was ultimately unable to escape Yan Zhaoge's pursuit. However, Lin Qiancheng seemed to possess some sort of special treasure. Whenever Yan Zhaoge and the Northern Ocean clone were in close pursuit, light would flicker within Lin Qiancheng's hands. Looking carefully, Yan Zhaoge saw that it resembled a round pearl. This pearl resembled the eyeballs of a dragon. Every time it flickered, the surrounding roiling cloud chi would become much more condensed, manifesting into the form of a true dragon, helping Lin Qiancheng block Yan Zhaoge. It was like a finishing touch. The dragon eyes flickered, and the true dragon chi around it became denser and more condensed. Having been dispersed by Yan Zhaoge's Northern Ocean clone, it had reverted to bewildering fog. However, accompanied by a flicker of the dragon eye in Lin Qiancheng's hand, the surrounding fog condensed once more. Just like that, with the help of the treasure, Lin Qiancheng staggered into the deepest part of the bewildering maze sea, according to the general understanding of the vast ocean world. Having arrived at this place, even martial saint experts would have to pay attention, rarely entering it. Yan Zhaoge did not hesitate as he followed closely behind Lin Qiancheng along with the Northern Ocean clone, entering this dangerous ground where few people tread. At this place, one could feel that the true dragon chi was even denser. It made one feel like there was a true dragon hidden in the surrounding clouds. Yan Zhaoge seemed to be deep in thought before he saw the black shadow that enveloped Lin Qiancheng descend towards the great sea down below, plunging headfirst into the seawater. As the Northern Ocean clone punched downwards, the seawater parted, revealing a seemingly bottomless abyss beneath. Lin Qiancheng's figure merged into it, gradually vanishing without a trace. However, the Northern Ocean clone brought Yan Zhaoge along in hot pursuit, his gaze fixed firmly on Lin Qiancheng. Glancing back at Yan Zhaoge, Lin Qiancheng separated his palms and struck out, not towards his pursuers, instead shaking the surrounding deep sea. A great amount of black chi instantly arose from within the deep sea, actually resembling numerous vicious dragons as they assaulted towards Yan Zhaoge and the Northern Ocean clone. Glancing at this black chi, Yan Zhaoge recognized that it was the flourishing essence chi of life, which had been converted into death chi. however exuberant the life force had been when it had been alive, how heavy the deathly stillness was now, virtually causing one to feel suffocated. The boundless death chi seemed to want to devour all the living beings that entered this place, forcing them to step into death and stay here forever. Yan Zhaoge thought to himself, no wonder this is a place of great danger, seldom visited by people. In the past, no one had been able to clearly explain the origins of the death chi here. However, Yan Zhaoge now knew that this extremely exuberant death chi probably originated from that burial ground of numerous dragons. Dragons were naturally born beings, their chi and blood powerful to the extreme. Even young dragons that had yet to mature possessed powerful physiques and life force. Even the death of a single dragon could produce majestic death chi, let alone the burial of numerous dragons. Having arrived here, Lin Qiancheng felt like a fish in water. Originally in a state of weakness, his strength actually seemed to be gradually recovering. Yan Zhaoge knew that this was because the illusory shadow demonic art excelled in plundering the essence chi of living beings. While this place was filled with dense death chi, it was all converted from the essence chi of living beings. Lin Qiancheng could temporarily absorb the death chi into his body, instead boosting his strength. Yan Zhaoge's expression did not change. The Northern Ocean clone shook his arms, hacking apart the numerous black chi that resembled vicious dragons before continuing to shoot towards Lin Qiancheng. Lin Qiancheng turned and struck out with a palm, forcibly clashing with the Northern Ocean clone's iron fist. As the two martial saints clashed, violent air currents instantly expanded into the surroundings, actually dispersing all the black chi within the deep abyss at the bottom of the sea, causing a vacuum to appear within the deep abyss. Both sides unleashed their power to the maximum, the illusory shadow demonic, art forcibly clashing with the Northern Ocean divine spear. The Northern Ocean clone's right hand that seemed to have been sculpted out of white jade had now completely lost its luster and moisture, becoming bony and shriveled, resembling a dried corpse. Meanwhile, Lin Qiancheng's right arm transformed into a blurry shadow, working hard to dispel the powerful force of the Northern Ocean divine spear. Still, it finally exploded, completely shattering. With just a single exchange, the battle had reached its climax. The Northern Ocean clone inhaled deeply, silently circulating his profound art and circulating his true essence. While his right hand was still shriveled, it now had a little more color to it, also slightly more plump. Seeing this, Lin Qiancheng let out a low snort, turning and leaving once more, continuing to dive deeper into the deep abyss. Yan Zhaoge and the Northern Ocean clone pursued him relentlessly. As the two battled, the surrounding death chi grew denser and denser as even Lin Qiancheng did not dare to easily absorb it into his body, lest he might die at any moment. After walking for a while, Lin Qiancheng suddenly halted. Then he suddenly raised a hand, a streak of light flickering amidst the all-encompassing black chi. It was precisely that dragon eye. Yan Zhaoge's heart jolted. Then he saw the black chi converge madly with that dragon eye as its center, finally transforming into a massive black dragon. The black dragon only had a single eye, but at this moment it was like a true dragon had been revived. A terrifying aura enveloped the heavens and covered the earth as it assaulted over, causing one's heart to palpitate. Nian Chen wielding the sacred artifact, the 9 dragon fingers, was only this much. However, what was even worse was yet to come. Lin Qiancheng raised his hands consecutively, another 8 dragon eyes flying out before drawing upon the majestic death chi of the deep abyss, transforming into 8 massive black dragons once more. A total of 9 one-eyed black dragons roared madly, intermingling together as they sealed off the entire deep abyss. Yan Zhaoge and the Northern Ocean clone, as well as Lin Qiancheng, were all locked down by these 9 powerful black dragons. In just an instant, Yen Zhaoge felt as though his life essence was currently in the midst of disappearing. Gazing over, the lower halves of the 9 black dragons' bodies were buried at the bottom of the deep abyss, their tails seemingly connected to something. Within the dark deep abyss, light actually flickered, gradually forming a tightly shut great door. As these 9 black dragons coiled, their tails tugged at the great door, currently attempting to open it. The power of the door clearly originated from the life essence of Yen Zhaoge, the Northern Ocean clone, and Lin Qiancheng. Sacrifice. Looking at Lin Qiancheng, Yen Zhaoge saw that the other party had circulated the illusory shadow demonic art to the maximum, his entire person resembling an illusory shadow, not existing in this world. As the 9 one-eyed black dragons devoured the life essence, they momentarily neglected Lin Qiancheng like this, instead mainly targeting Yen Zhaoge and the Northern Ocean clone. Especially the Northern Ocean clone, who possessed a martial saint body and exuberant life force to the extreme, becoming their primary target. Lin Qiancheng's ethereal voice resounded from the illusory black shadow. Opening this legendary dragon gate requires the sacrifice of a massive amount of life force. Only a martial saint can do it. I am unable to open the gate myself. I am specifically waiting for some smart aleck to come here. It can be Zhao Zhong. It can be Lin Shi. It can be you. Yen Zhaoge said, "Don't stand on ceremony. As you say, I am also unable to open the gate alone." Chapter 550. Within the deep abyss, the roars of dragons resounded unceasingly. However, they were no longer grand and majestic, mighty and vigorous, as they were instead filled with a brutal killing intent. The 9 one-eyed black dragons locked down space together, unceasingly devouring all life force other than the death chi within the deep abyss. The massive bodies of the dragons, whose length was measured in li, were now taut, their tails tied to the massive door down below as they tugged forcefully. As the 9 dragons opened the door, it shook unceasingly. After the radiance was no longer dazzling, looking over carefully, that door was clearly formed of pure white bones, and from their shape, they were all dragon bones. Absorbing the essence of life force, the lifeless dragon gate seemed to glow with life once more as it gradually showed signs of opening. However, wanting to completely open this massive dragon gate, abundant life force was required. Yen Zhaoge could feel that his Northern Ocean clone's life force was shockingly currently being depleted in a great amount. Lin Qiancheng's entire body transformed into a faint shadow, virtually undetectable amidst the deep abyss that was filled with dense black fog. His voice seemed to resound simultaneously from every corner. I believe that there will definitely be smart people who will be able to deduce that I have come to the bewildering maze sea, attempting to locate the dragon tomb. However, your intelligence will send you to the place I wish you to be. The one who arrives first will be able to help me open the dragon tomb. Amidst his words, Lin Qiancheng circulated his illusory shadow demonic art to the maximum, evading the attacks of the 9 black dragons. Yen Zhaoge was well aware that Lin Qiancheng's words were actually not just for the sake of a moment of pride. Instead, he was intentionally angering him. If his and the Northern Ocean clone's minds were unstable, even attempting to attack him, it would be even easier for the black dragons within the deep abyss to devour their life force, hastening their deaths. Yen Zhaoge smiled coldly, not speaking as he got the Northern Ocean clone to guard himself, preventing his life force from leaking out with all his might. Meanwhile, he himself drifted towards that clump of black shadow that Lin Qiancheng had transformed into. Lin Qiancheng said mildly, "If you refine that clone of the Northern Ocean Martial Saint Zhuang Kuan, you might still be able to threaten me. Even though my body is weak now, even though you yourself are brimming with talent, it is still too early for you to think of doing anything to me." Yen Zhaoge laughed lightly. Save it. If my Northern Ocean clone were to attack you now, he would be unable to defend his life force first, being sucked dry by this 9 dragons devouring heavens ritual. Lin Qianqing said, "You are indeed an extraordinary young man, but so what? If you do it yourself, your life will also be devoured by the sacrificial ritual. Moreover, I have completely transformed into a netherworld phantom. You can't hurt me. As time passes, your martial sacred's clone will eventually become the sacrifice to open the Dragon Gate. Without that martial saint doppelganger, you won't be affected by the 9 heavens devouring 9 dragons after the ritual ends. You won't be able to escape from me." Lin Qianqing's voice was calm and certain. "From the moment you chased me into this place, everything was already destined. A burial ground where dragons enter the sea. What a great opportunity this is. Do you know how many dragons are buried here? 10? 100? Let me tell you, far more than that. Believe me, to be able to attend this grand event and open the Dragon Gate is already something that you should be proud of for the rest of your life. Although you don't have the rest of your life." Yen Zhaoge was not flustered or angered as the corners of his mouth arched slightly upwards, revealing a hint of a smile. "Everyone is the same. Let us work together. Don't you just want to provoke me into making a move, watching as I reap what I sow, dying beneath this 9 dragons devouring heavens, coming near the black shadow?" Yen Zhaoge raised his palm. "As you wish, I'm here." As Yen Zhaoge advanced and raised his palm, his life force grew more and more unstable, being devoured at an accelerated rate by those 9 one-eyed black dragons. Yen Zhaoge's skin even began gradually losing its luster, turning ashen, showing signs of shriveling and aging. His originally shiny black hair also began to dry up. However, Yen Zhaoge's expression did not waver in the slightest. As he raised his right hand upwards, forming a fist seal, everything seemed to come to a halt for just that one moment. A feeling of danger suddenly arose within Lin Qianqing's heart. Yen Zhaoge's right fist descended from above, its target precisely towards the illusory figure formed of Lin Qianqing. The feeling of danger within Lin Qianqing's heart grew stronger and stronger. Logically speaking, even though Yen Zhaoge's cultivation base far surpassed martial practitioners of the same cultivation level, Lin Qianqing, was currently executing the illusory shadow demonic art with all his might as a martial saint, not seeking to injure his enemy, only seeking to transform and protect himself. Yen Zhaoge should not be able to do anything to him. However, Lin Qianqing currently felt as though a great calamity was about to befall him. That feeling was like the heavens and earth before him had arrived at the end of the world, all things perishing together, as they were completely destroyed. The heavens and earth before Lin Qianqing's eyes seemed to be collapsing and overturning, everything falling into chaos. Everything seemed to be reversing in reverse. Above Yen Zhaoge's head, numerous essence talismans congregated, transforming into a massive spirit formation, which manifested Yen Zhaoge's fist intent as it circulated. As Lin Qianqing gazed over, that fist intent formed an illusory world of light. However, everything within this world of light shockingly seemed to be reversing and reversing. Cyclic heavenly seal. This fist of Yen Zhaoge's focused on intent rather than force, not on the majestic power of the cyclic heavenly seal that could overturn the heavens and the earth. Instead, it was the profundities of its concept, the essence of reversing the 2 extremities of yin and yang. Lin Qianqing's illusory shadow demonic art currently posed no threat to the outside world, as he was only fully focused on developing his own concept and variations in his divine abilities in order to resist the 9 dragons devouring heavens. Disturbed by Yen Zhaoge's cyclic heavenly seal at this moment, the illusory figure formed of Lin Qianqing instantly became bright at times whilst dim at others. Beneath the reversal of the two extremities, Lin Qianqing's figure actually began gradually becoming clearer, turning from illusory to solid once more. Amidst the black silhouette, Lin Qianqing's face gradually appeared. Even with his usual composure, he was greatly shocked at this moment, not having thought that Yan Zhaoge would actually be able to break through his illusory shadow demonic art. Looking at Lin Qianqing, Yan Zhaoge smiled. "You are a martial saint. If not for the inherent shortcoming of the illusory shadow demonic art causing you to be extremely weak now, I would also not have been able to drag you out of that illusory scene so easily. Still, since you chose to come to this bewildering maze sea today, don't blame me for taking your life while you're down." Lin Qianqing discovered to his shock that, under the influence of Yan Zhaoge's cyclic heavenly seal, not only had his illusory form been broken through, he had gradually regained his physical form. The essence qi of life forms that he had plundered had transformed into dark, devilish qi, originally being rather compatible with the death qi of the deep abyss. Now, however, it had actually regained its vitality. This was even more attractive to those 9 one-eyed black dragons than the Northern Ocean clone. The main target of the 9 dragons devouring heavens instantly shifted from Yan Zhaoge's Northern Ocean clone to Lin Qianqing. Greatly enraged, Lin Qianqing simply summoned his strength, striking out towards Yan Zhaoge with a palm, wanting to force back Yan Zhaoge's cyclic heavenly seal. However, Yan Zhaoge did not evade at all, the momentum of the cyclic heavenly seal not changing as he instead raised the earth-devouring burner with his other hand, dispelling Lin Qianqing's devilish palm. Lin Qianqing's heart sunk. With this proactive attack, his power became even more unstable as it was unceasingly absorbed by the 9 dragons devouring heavens. Yan Zhaoge smiled. "Come, evil saint, let us witness this grand occasion together." Chapter 5:51. Under Yan Zhaoge's influence, Lin Qianqing felt his life force being unceasingly absorbed by the 9 dragons devouring heavens. Looking at Yan Zhaoge, Lin Qianqing discovered that the signs of his life force flowing away had already been suppressed. He discovered that the situation was already completely out of his control. As the 9 dragons devouring heavens ritual continued, the dragon gate down below was also slowly opening as he had expected. However, the main body being sacrificed was already him, no longer Yan Zhaoge's Northern Ocean clone. The final result of the ritual would be that his life force's essence qi would be completely sacrificed to the ritual, with Yan Zhaoge and the Northern Ocean clone enjoying the fruits of it. A fierce light flickered within Lin Qianqing's eyes as he dispelled the illusory transformation of his own accord, beginning to accumulate power as he targeted Yan Zhaoge. Seeing that Lin Qianqing looked like he was prepared to go all out, Yan Zhaoge instead was no longer in a rush as he began to slowly drag things out with him. The enemy advanced, and I retreated, the enemy retreated, and I advanced, angering Lin Qianqing to the point of seething with anger. Yan Zhaoge had no intention of killing Lin Qianqing, here along with the Northern Ocean clone. Since Lin Qianqing had prepared this 9 dragons devouring heavens ritual to open the dragon gate, Yan Zhaoge was naturally happy to do so. Wanting him to pave the way for Lin Qianqing as a stepping stone, Yan Zhaoge was naturally not interested. However, wanting Lin Qianqing to pave the way for him as a stepping stone, Yan Zhaoge would definitely smilingly agree, not being stingy in extending a helping hand to help Lin Qianqing complete his glorious mission. Seeing Yan Zhaoge, who had still been domineering a moment ago, suddenly become extremely slippery, now, Lin Qianqing did not find it funny at all as a chill surged within his heart. As time passed unceasingly, the 9 dragons devouring heavens ritual unceasingly devoured Lin Qianqing's life force. Looking at Lin Qianqing, Yan Zhaoge said mildly, "There is indeed someone who thinks himself clever. Lin Qianqing, you did not die by my hands. Instead, you died by your own scheming. Lin Qiancheng let out a final frenzied roar. Accompanied by this roar, the dragon gate down below, dragged along by the 9 black dragons, finally mightily opened. Meanwhile, one of the 3 peak martial saints of the vast ocean world, the evil Saint Lin Qiancheng's figure gradually aged and decayed, gradually sinking within this deep abyss of the bewildering maze sea. A martial saint had been slowly ground to death by Yan Zhaoge with the unique environment of the Dragon Gate. He had died in an extremely vexed and sullen manner. Yan Zhaoge joined up with the Northern Ocean clone. Then he saw those 9 one-eyed black dragons emit a long, mighty roar together, no longer coiling within the deep abyss, as they instead wanted to shoot upwards. The Dragon Gate below slowly opened, and endless light shot out from within. There's still such a change. Yan Zhaoge's heart tightened as the Northern Ocean clone hurriedly led him to the side. The 9 one-eyed black dragons broke through the sea and rose into the sky together. Their tails followed closely behind, dragging streams of light behind them. They rushed out of the abyss, passed through the seawater, broke through the surface of the sea, and rushed straight into the sky. Yan Zhaoge was also a little shocked at this scene. He saw the deep abyss still collapsing unceasingly. Then, amidst the rumbling of the Dragon Gate, it actually closed once more and left the ground as well. The 9 soaring black dragons seemed to have turned into dragon heads, and the Dragon Gate at the end was like a dragon's tail. The thick stream of light in the middle was like the body of a dragon. At this moment, it was as if a gigantic light dragon that surpassed one's imagination had flown out from the bewildering maze ocean. Its head was like a mountain range, and its body was like a river. The light dragon tore through the horizon aimlessly. After circling once in the air, it slid down into the distance. Yan Zhaoge chased it from the depths of the sea. He saw that while the tail of the massive dragon still remained in the bewildering maze ocean, its head was already smashing down towards another region of sea. To the northeast of the bewildering maze ocean was a continent. While the vast ocean world was dominated by the sea, there were continents as well. Some sects had established their sects on these continents. Adjacent to the bewildering maze ocean was the territory of the brilliant thunder sect of the 6 evil sects. On the thunder fire peak of Mount Jiamao, a group of brilliant thunder sect martial practitioners had congregated, currently in the midst of discussion. Their chief, the Crimson Thunder King, Geng Hui, having failed to surround and kill Yan Zhaoge in the star-shifting sea, had returned injured. Having just returned to secluded cultivation, he had to stabilize his injuries first. Those of the brilliant thunder sect were shocked, whilst also feeling uneasy. Having failed to surround and kill Yan Zhaoge, the brilliant thunder sect had also formed enmity with Yan Zhaoge. Even Geng Hui had been injured. If Yan Zhaoge were to pursue them, the brilliant thunder sect would have to have a way to deal with him. As long as we guard our sect, even if that brat surnamed Yan has a martial saint clone, he will still be unable to do anything to our sect. With him having failed in his attack, he may rampage in places other than Thunderfire Peak. That would cause great destruction. Contact the other evil sects. If we all move together, we will be able to exterminate him. If he comes seeking revenge, we might just be able to set up a trap for him. After the Sacred Evil Sect, the Dragon Slayer Sect, and Soul Shocking Island have broken through the Blood Dragon Sect, they are all rushing towards Water Crystal Palace now. They probably won't be able to make it back in time. Everyone expressed their opinions one after another. The leading elder waved his hands. We can make a final decision after Chief has recovered from his injuries. Now, we should first be on full alert and inform the disciples who have gone out to return, lest that Yan Zhaoge pursues us. As he was speaking, his expression suddenly changed greatly. A boom resounded from his secluded cultivation grounds, as Gung Hui directly shot out from within. Some brilliant Thunder Sect martial practitioners with lower cultivation bases were still at a loss as to what to do when they saw the higher echelon experts of their sect fleeing towards the outside of the mountain. Virtually not giving them much time, a terrifying light dragon descended from the sky, directly slamming into Thunderfire Peak. Instantly, the heavens collapsed and the earth split apart, Thunderfire Peak directly leveled by a terrifying force, a massive basin left behind where it had been. The long mountain range collapsed and shattered in its entirety, deep ravines spanning tens of thousands of kilometers on the great Earth. The entire continent shook intensely, as though it was about to shatter into a few pieces. Just like that, the martial practitioners of Myriad Sword Pool and the other sects who had been on the same path all had dazed looks on their faces, not knowing what was happening at all. It was as though a world-ending calamity had descended upon the world without any prior warning whatsoever. The light dragon slammed into the great Earth, rushing within as the light quickly vanished. There was only that massive dragon gate at the tail of the dragon, which was smashed into the ground along with it, landing at the bottom of the basin. Dust suffused the air, sand and pebbles filling the air. When it had gradually calmed, only a massive basin remained where it had been. At its center was a great door formed of white bones. Gung Hui looked dazedly at the scene before him, rigidly swiveling his neck and scanning his surroundings. He discovered that only the few peak martial grandmaster experts of his brilliant Thunder Sect had managed to escape. Everyone else had been destroyed along with their sect. The brilliant Thunder Sect of the Six Evil Sects, one of the few sacred ground level powers of the vast ocean world, had virtually been exterminated by this sudden calamity in an instant. Yen Zhaoge and the Northern Ocean clone rushed out of the deep abyss, chasing after the light dragon as they headed northeast. Seeing the scene of the light dragon smashing into the great Earth, Yen Zhaoge was also rather dazed. Lin Qiansheng probably didn't know that such a thing would happen, right? This method of his is really too much of a scam. The direction in which the light dragon is traveling seems to be related to the circulation of the earth veins of the vast ocean world. I wonder whose sect has been unlucky. Having left the bewildering maze sea and ascertained the direction, Yen Zhaoge's expression involuntarily turned rather strange. It seems to be the territory of the brilliant Thunder Sect. Chapter 552. In the battle outside the star-shifting sea, other than the blood dragon sects Nianchen, those who had participated in attacking Yen Zhaoge included the chief of the evil shifting sect, the heavenly evil Feng Jingsheng, and the number one expert of Spirit Rhino Island after Fang Ken's death, Guan Li, who was also a transcending mortality martial grandmaster. Next was the chief of the brilliant Thunder Sect, the Crimson Thunder King, Gung Hui, who was acclaimed as the number one expert of the vast ocean world beneath the martial saint realm, a bigwig of the forces of evil, who was ranked first amongst the top 10 transcending mortality martial saints. The blood dragon sects, Nianchen, Myriad Sword Pools, Yengang, and soul-shocking islands Lu Shua could still suppress Gung Hui with their sacred artifacts. If they did not use sacred artifacts like the 9 dragon fingers, the floating sinking sword, or the soul-shocking box, they would have to avoid Gung Hui upon seeing him. This chief of the brilliant Thunder Sect was indisputably the person of the vast ocean world who was currently the closest to transcending mortality and entering sainthood. Feng Jingsheng of the evil shifting sect and Guanli of Spirit Rhino Island making a move was within Yen Zhaoge's predictions. After all, the enmity between him and the evil shifting sect and Spirit Rhino Island was not small. If there was a chance for revenge, he would naturally not let it go. While good and evil were irreconcilable in the matter of dealing with Yen Zhaoge, the Blood Dragon sect, Spirit Rhino Island, and the evil shifting sect had a tacit understanding of temporarily ignoring their previous factions, temporarily working together. However, Yen Zhaoge had never had any conflict with the brilliant Thunder sect before. Gung Hui had actually appeared to encircle and kill him along with the others. This was something worth pondering. The possibility of him having been invited by someone to assist them was not high. Yan Zhaoge's battle accomplishments in slaying Fang Ken and repelling Lin Qianqing in the bewildering Maze Sea had let everyone of the vast ocean world know that anyone below the Martial Saint realm challenging Yan Zhaoge alone was virtually courting death. How deep of a relationship, or how great a price had to be paid for someone to dare take such a risk if it was unrelated to anyone else, and it was the idea of Gung Hui and the brilliant Thunder Sect. What was the reason? A thought immediately surfaced in Yan Zhaoge's mind. Within his right eye that concealed the eye of the Thunder Emperor fragment, the light of thunder vaguely flickered, causing Yan Zhaoge's right eye to feel a slight piercing pain. When he had slain Fang Ken in the bewildering Maze Sea, Yan Zhaoge had been. There had been many eyewitnesses at the time, but most of their attention had been placed on Yan Zhaoge's Martial Saint Northern Ocean clone. However, after the brilliant Thunder Sect heard the details of the matter, perhaps they would pay attention to an instant's thunder. Was it because of the unique characteristics of his own martial arts that he yearned for this kind of power? Or was it because he knew the ins and outs of an instant's thunder that he coveted it? If he knew the ins and outs of an instant's thunder, then was it just limited to understanding? Or Gung Hui and the brilliant Thunder Sect also had a fragment of the eye of the Thunder Emperor? Yan Zhaoge narrowed his eyes slightly into slits as he followed the Northern Ocean clone across the Great Sea and onto the mainland, flying towards the region where the brilliant Thunder Sect had originally been located. In the star-shifting sea, Gung Hui had fled the earliest and fastest. Wanting to take care of Nian Chun and the 9 dragon fingers before him, Yan Zhaoge had ignored him. However, at that time, Yan Zhaoge had already been secretly paying attention to Gung Hui's inexplicable appearance. Afterwards, in order to prevent Lin Qianqing from pulling the wool over everyone's eyes, at the same time also to prevent Yan Zhaoge's judgment from being wrong, and the 3 heavyweights of evil joining hands to sweep through the martial world of good, causing massive destruction, Yan Zhaoge had chosen to first head to the bewildering Maze Sea to block Lin Qianqing. However, a petty person like him would definitely not forget about the matter of the brilliant Thunder Sect. It was just that he had truly not thought that Lin Qianqing's opening of the Dragon Gate would actually cause such a change, with the brilliant Thunder Sect thus suffering the tragedy of being shot while lying down. As Yan Zhaoge looked at the great earth that had once been shattered into numerous pieces, the mountain ranges that had once been no more, and the high peaks that had been reduced to basins, he shook his head repeatedly. They really are unlucky to a certain extent. That terrifying collision of the light dragon just now would have been able to insta-kill even a martial saint in a head-on clash. While Thunderfire Peak had been the headquarters of the brilliant Thunder Sect for many years, the martial practitioners of the brilliant Thunder Sect probably wouldn't even dare to wield their grand formation to block it. They could only flee with all their might, as many as they could. If they hesitated in the slightest and tried to resist, the result would be that they would be instantly blasted into smithereens along with their headquarters. Yan Zhaoge surveyed the surrounding area. The surrounding heavens and earth were in complete chaos, with no martial practitioners of the brilliant Thunder Sect to be seen. Yan Zhaoge believed that there would still be survivors. It was just that only Gung Hui and a few other peak experts should have been able to escape this tribulation. Now that they were nowhere to be seen, they should have first retreated after having been temporarily unable to do anything about the Dragon Gate at the bottom of the basin. Without the geographical advantage of their headquarters, their sect had virtually been completely decimated. Under such a calamity, if an enemy like Yan Zhaoge came looking for them or some other major evil sect came to take advantage of them, the brilliant Thunder Sect would really be completely eradicated from the vast ocean world henceforth. However, incomparably furious and despondent Gung Hui and the others were, they could only first find a place to hide, treating their wounds and observing the situation. Yen Zhaoge temporarily set aside the problem of the brilliant Thunder Sect, carefully observing that basin as well as the Dragon Gate at its bottom. Within the basin, streams of black qi could currently be seen surging from within. The Dragon Gate that had opened in the bewildering maze see earlier was now closed once more. However, Yen Zhaoge could feel that the current Dragon Gate was already different from before. It was just that it had simply been closed. It was just that some shocking change seemed to be brewing within the Dragon Gate. With just a thought from Yen Zhaoge, the Northern Ocean clone descended, arriving before the Dragon Gate within the basin before making a grabbing motion within the air. As the Northern Ocean clone exerted force, a creaking sound resounded as the massive Dragon Gate vaguely opened. Gazing within, Yen Zhaoge saw a dense deathly qi that resembled thick ink coiling within. However, observing it carefully, he could see that the black qi was actually gradually dissipating. The spiritual qi network of the vast ocean world was currently unceasingly affecting the spiritual qi flow of the Dragon Gate. The deathly qi decreased unceasingly as a thriving life force instead surged from within. At the same time, Yen Zhaoge discovered that the vigorous, majestic aura that should have belonged to the dragon race within the Dragon Gate was gradually manifesting. It was as if numerous dead dragons were currently reviving. It was just that while this qi of true dragons was majestic and shocking, it was still quite a distance away from the true coiling phenomenon of numerous dragons. Yen Zhaoge knew that the numerous dragons had not revived. Instead, like the corpse of the ice dragon that he had obtained in the old residence of the glacial dragon martial saint, their spirituality had not dissipated after their death, thus being able to maintain their dragon might. However, this roiling dragon qi intermingled with that dense deathly qi, forming an extremely terrifying force field. The space within the Dragon Gate was independent of the vast ocean world, resembling another world altogether. With the dragon qi obstructing their path now, if they were to enter recklessly, they would probably end up like the brilliant Thunder Sect, where even martial saints might not be able to keep their lives. From the looks of it, I will have to wait patiently for a period of time until this burial ground of numerous dragons has gradually regained its calm before I can enter. Yen Zhaoge gradually came to a conclusion. I just wonder how long I will have to wait. As time slowly passed, the martial practitioners of the other sects also hurried over upon hearing the news. Seeing the scene before them, they exchanged looks, all unable to speak. To be continued. Chapter 553. Looking at that Dragon Gate, which had finally opened, yet was still unable to enter, Yen Zhaoge did not know whether to laugh or to cry. If Lin Qianqing knew that the final situation would be like this, he probably wouldn't have come to open this dragon graveyard in high spirits, right? After spending so much effort to execute the 9 dragons devouring heaven art, he finally managed to open the Dragon's Gate. However, he was unable to seize the initiative. In the end, he could only wait for the world within the Dragon's Gate to stabilize before he could enter. When the time came, the others would have already received the news and would be ready for battle. Everyone would be on the same starting line. Why bother? If Lin Qianqing had known this earlier, he probably would not have so complacently treated that 9 dragons devouring heavens technique of his as a treasure. Let's not talk about the brilliant Thunder Sect for now. Even if everything went according to plan, it would still be a trap for him in the end. Yen Zhaoge had a strange expression on his face as he looked at the basin down below, and it really is a huge pit. The martial practitioners of the other sects also congregated in the vicinity of the basin. The martial practitioners who had accompanied Yen Zhaoge to the bewildering maze see earlier gradually arrived as well. After hearing Yen Zhaoge's general introduction of the situation, everyone was rendered speechless for a time, unable to speak for a long time. Lin Qiancheng had long since set up a trap, lying in ambush in the bewildering maze sea, specifically waiting for someone to take the bait. In the end, it was Yan Zhaoge, who was more skilled than him, causing Lin Qiancheng to be caught in his own trap. Lin Qiancheng, one of the 3 martial saint experts of the vast ocean world, had finally silently perished within the deep abyss of the bewildering maze sea, becoming the key to opening the Dragon Gate, the secret of the group of dragons entering the sea, and the burial grounds made everyone's hearts race. As they looked at the Dragon's Gate at the bottom of the basin, many thoughts appeared in their minds. There was no one who did not believe Yan Zhaoge's words, because the scene before them had already proven how powerful that legendary existence was. One of the 6 evil sects, the brilliant Thunder sect, was annihilated in an instant. Such extravagance was something that no one in the current vast ocean world could achieve. Looking at the surrounding people, Yan Zhaoge smiled. This place cannot be stabilized in just a day or 2. This Yan will first return to Changli Mountain. Su Fei and Shi Jun naturally trusted Yan Zhaoge's judgment. Exchanging glances, those of Changli Mountain left behind someone to stand guard while the others returned to the mountain as well. Seeing this, the people from the other sects hesitated. They could sense the dangerous aura coming from the Dragon's Gate below, but they were still a little unwilling. Some people refused to believe it and tried to enter the Dragon Gate. However, they were instantly killed by the terrifying and domineering dragon chi within the Dragon Gate, and not even their bones were left. Everyone was terrified, and only then did they temporarily give up on the idea. However, every family left someone to guard the basin, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Accompanied by Yan Zhaoge's return to the mountain, this tribulation caused by the Blood Dragon sect finally came to an end. After the matter of the brilliant Thunder sect, the Dragon Slayer sect, and Soul Shocking Island had completely stopped their battles against Water Crystal Palace and Myriad Sword Pool. Water Crystal Palace and Myriad Sword Pool did not get involved too much either. Both sides were paying close attention to the changes in the bewildering maze sea and the brilliant Thunder sect. After understanding what was going on, both sides tacitly stopped fighting. After this, the vast ocean world, which had been wreathed in the flames of war a moment ago, rapidly regained its calm. But the oppressive atmosphere was still there, as if everyone was waiting for something. However, in this battle, both sides suffered heavy casualties. On the side of good, the Blood Dragon sect had been virtually exterminated, the 2 transcending mortality martial grandmasters of Spirit Rhino Island having both perished, and Water Crystal Palace having suffered great losses when it had initially been surrounded and attacked. On the side of evil, the evil Saint Lin Qiancheng had perished, the chief of the evil shifting sect Feng Jingsheng had perished, and the brilliant Thunder sect had been completely leveled to the ground. Whether it was good or evil, both sides had suffered great losses to their vitality. Meanwhile, Yan Zhaoge's fame had risen yet another level in this great battle, virtually reaching the point where he was like the midday sun. To the martial practitioners of the vast ocean world, whether or not Yan Zhaoge's strength surpassed that of the chief of the Dragon Slayer sect Zhao Zhong, and the Palace Lord of Water Crystal Palace Lin Shi, it was indisputable that his fame and prestige were currently even greater than that of these 2 heavyweights of good and evil. Especially what caused both good and evil to look over was the fact that the sacred artifact of the Blood Dragon sect, the 9 dragon fingers, was currently in Yan Zhaoge's hands as well. If Yan Zhaoge refined the 9 dragon fingers with the Northern Ocean clone and the 9 dragon fingers by his side, Yan Zhaoge would be the indisputable number 1 expert of the vast ocean world. Even other martial saint experts or sacred artifacts would have to join forces in order to be able to stand against him. At this time, the people of the vast ocean world had already gradually stopped referring to this youth who was in his 20s directly by his name. At first, it had been something like Fu Kuanpeng, because this title was somewhat unkind to Yen Zhaoge, mainly relying on the mortal shell of the Northern Ocean Marshal Saint Zhuang Kuan to show off his might. More and more people now referred to him as the Traceless Cloud Dragon King or Traceless Cloud when they mentioned Yen Zhaoge. The meaning of a mysterious dragon's head, but not its tail, traceless amidst the clouds. Towards this young expert of unknown origins who had suddenly appeared in the vast ocean world, shocking the heavens as soon as he had appeared, everyone felt both fear and reverence towards him. This was the case for the peak powers of good and evil. As for the smaller powers beneath them, as well as solitary practitioners, when mentioning Yen Zhaoge, they were completely filled with praise and reverence. This youth had accomplished what many people would find hard to achieve in their lifetimes. The speed at which he had risen could be said to be unprecedented, as he was already a living legend of the vast ocean world. Now, only a portion of those who had enmity with Yen Zhaoge would say a few words behind his back. Still, they only dared to do so in private. To Changli Mountain, where Yen Zhaoge was temporarily residing, he was currently undoubtedly the most esteemed guest. It will probably still take some time before we can enter the Dragon Gate. Let's all wait and worry together. At that time, it will definitely be another gathering of experts. I believe that the other sects will also be accumulating their strength in preparation, Yen Zhaoge said as he looked at the people of Changli Mountain before him. The chief of Changli Mountain, Gao Tianzhong, nodded slowly. That's right. I hope that you will not be stingy with your assistance then. Yen Zhaoge smiled. Chief Gao is polite. After leaving Changli Mountain, Yen Zhaoge, Su Fei, and Shi Jun returned to the ocean-scorching spring together. As they walked, Su Fei asked, "Will it affect you and Senior Apprentice Aunt Fu's return to the Eight Extremities world?" Yen Zhaoge smacked his lips. It is still hard to say now. Still, with the opening of the Dragon Gate, the spiritual chi veins of the vast ocean world, as well as the boundaries of space and time, have been affected greatly. He took out the lofty prestige mirror. After this period of nourishment and recovery, light was already flickering on its surface once more, just that it was temporarily retracted and not emitted. Accompanied by Yen Zhaoge's will, a faint mirror light shot out from within the lofty prestige mirror, illuminating into the distance. After identifying the direction, Su Fei and Shi Jun were both taken aback. Yen Zhaoge shrugged. Right, that's right. It's in the direction of the Jiamao mountain range, where the brilliant Thunder Sect was originally located. It might be somewhere in the vicinity, but it might also be within the Dragon Gate. Therefore, our return to the Eight Extremities world and entering the Dragon Gate might be one and the same thing. The lofty prestige mirror has still yet to recover completely. When it has, we will be able to ascertain its exact location. If the dimensional crevice opens within the Dragon Gate, this passageway will also be our path home. Yen Zhaoge stroked his lower chin. Actually, I have long since had a premonition. Both the Eight Extremities world and the vast ocean world had the legend of the burial ground of numerous dragons. The dimensional passageway between the two worlds might most likely appear there. When Yen Zhaoge and Fu Wenshu had come over earlier, the dragon tomb had still yet to open. Now that the Dragon Gate had opened, the space-time of the vast ocean world had been disturbed. If they wanted to form a passageway to the Eight Extremities world, it might have to be opened within the dragon tomb. Yen Zhaoge muttered to himself, I wonder how things are over at the Eight Extremities world now. Chapter 554. In the Eight Extremities world, the experts of the human race congregated in the East Sea, battling the flame devils. In the end, this battle ended with Broad Creed Mountain's chief Yin Di, the painting Saint Old Man Mo, the Sacred Sun Clan's Grand Elder Huang Guanglia, and the Lord of Jade Sea City Song Wuliang joining hands to execute the Tai Imperial Breaking Formation, sealing the Flame Devils as well as the dimensional passageway leading to the Flame Devil world. The human martial practitioners rejoiced. Not only had they slain a great number of flame devil experts in this battle, they had even had the chance to seal the dimensional passageway. For a considerably long period of time, the flame devils would no longer be able to pose a threat to the Eight Extremities world. The calamity of the flame devils that had lasted for many years had been largely resolved this time. The Tai Imperial Breaking Formation, which suppressed and sealed the flame devils, originated from Broad Creed Mountain. Still, in this great battle, the human martial practitioners had similarly paid a considerable price. The one who drew the most attention was the current number one heaven's favored son of the Eight Extremities world's younger generation, the great riding of dragons, Yen Zhaoga. While the Tai Imperial Breaking Formation could suppress and seal the flame devils, when the seal was formed, it would also form a massive destructive force inside and outside the formation. Those below the martial saint realm would not be spared. Yen Zhaoga had also been within the formation at the time. For some reason, he had not been able to retreat in time. After the seal of the East Sea had been completed, he had not appeared again. Searching carefully, not being able to find Yen Zhaoga's traces, everyone's hearts all grew heavy. Logically speaking, things did not bode well for Yen Zhaoga, as he was likely to have been affected by the seal and perished in this incomparable battle. Those of Broad Creed Mountain were naturally greatly despondent. Those of the clan had never given up on their efforts to find Yen Zhaoga, but as time slowly passed, they had never found anything at all. The hope in their eyes also grew dimmer and dimmer. And other than Yen Zhaoga, the higher echelon experts of Broad Creed Mountain, as well as Fu Enshu, had also been swept within the range of the seal. As a result, right after the great battle had ended, conflict erupted between Broad Creed Mountain and the Sacred Sun clan, the two sides nearly having a great battle in the East Sea. Fu Enshu's disciples, Feng Yinsheng and Yin Lu Hua, reported to the clan together that in the midst of the seal of the East Sea, peak experts of the Sacred Sun clan had suddenly launched a sneak attack on them, causing Fu Enshu to be swept into the seal. Both sides were at loggerheads, and it was during this time that something big happened. In the great battle with the Flame Devils earlier, Infinite Boundless Mountain's Chief Chu, Yen had been heavily injured and had returned to the mountain to recuperate, temporarily entrusting their clan's sacred artifact, the Heaven-Cleaving Axe, to their clan's Grand Elder Li Jingtu. While the Heaven-Cleaving Axe had also suffered heavy injuries, in order to deal with the Flame Devil's attacks, Li Jingtu had still brought the Heaven-Cleaving Axe with him in the East Sea. In the end, after the seal had been formed, chaos ensued. By the time the situation had gradually settled down, the other Infinite Boundless Mountain martial practitioners shockingly discovered that their elder Li had been killed. Meanwhile, the sacred artifact, the Heaven-Cleaving Axe, had actually fallen into the hands of the Sacred Sun clan. For a time, the Eight Extremities world was in an uproar. While the Heaven-Cleaving Axe had been damaged, with the extreme Yin Crown and the Heaven-Cleaving Axe in their hands, the Sacred Sun clan's momentum surged. Yen Di, Old Man Mo, Song Wuliang, and the others were all temporarily trapped within the seal of the East Sea. What caused the hearts of Broad Creed Mountain, Jade Sea City, and Infinite Boundless Mountain to be even heavier was the fact that the Lord of the Heavenly Thunder Hall, Shun Li, had appeared, still allied with the Sacred Sun clan. Even Turbid Wave Pavilion's pavilion master, and Qing Lin, was wary of the two clans joining hands. Broad Creed Mountain was especially stifled, because news from the Earth domain said that while the threat of the invasion of the 9 underworlds had already been resolved, their Grand Elder, the heaven-equaling Saint Yuan Zhongfeng, had similarly been lost amidst the chaotic flows of space, his whereabouts unknown. And this was largely because the Lord of the Heavenly Thunder Hall, Shun Li, had fled in the face of danger. Even as Broad Creed Mountain denounced Shun Li for fleeing in the face of danger, Shun Li also made a countercharge, claiming that in the process of preventing the descent of the 9 underworlds, Broad Creed Mountain's Yen Zhaoga had been greedy and touched a rare treasure within the Earth domain, causing the seal to collapse and nearly allowing the devils to succeed. In the end, it had been him, Shun Li, who had been able to successfully seal the crevice to the 9 underworlds, preventing the descent of the true devils. Broad Creed Mountain was naturally unconvinced, but the 8 Extremities world martial practitioners who had been in the Earth domain at the time had virtually all died in battle. Of those who had returned from the Earth domain, Fang Zhuan was heavily injured and unconscious, while Yen Zhaoga's fate was also unknown, having vanished without a trace. The only one who could speak openly was actually Shun Li alone. As a result, even if Broad Creed Mountain retaliated, it would also appear rather weak and powerless. The mutual accusations between the two sides gradually became a quagmire where right and wrong could not be distinguished. The attacks of the Flame Devils and the 9 underworlds were simultaneously suppressed. The entire universe of the 8 Extremities world cleared up as the external threat was resolved. However, the overall situation of the world did not relax as the smell of gunpowder filled the air between the sacred grounds. Due to the great battle with the Flame Devils and the 9 underworlds, the strength of all the sacred grounds had been severely damaged. Even the Sacred Sun Clan's newly obtained heaven-cleaving axe had been damaged, and Mengwan, who wielded the extreme Yin crown, had similarly been injured in battle with the Flame Devils. Even as the various sacred grounds unceasingly attacked each other, they were also making use of this time to heal their wounds, accumulating their strength once more. Junior Apprentice Niece Feng, your injuries are already fine, and there will not be any negative side effects. Within Broad Creed Mountain, Elder Feng Qi said, as he looked at Feng Yunsheng, it will also not affect your cultivation from now on. Feng Yunsheng nodded, then asked, what about Junior Apprentice Sisterine? Feng Qi said, she is also fine. The two of you only have superficial wounds. Feng Yunsheng bowed towards Feng Qi. Thank you, Senior Apprentice Uncle Feng. The son of Feng Qi beside her, Feng Moyang, handed over a small, white jade bottle. Take 1 pill a day for 3 days. Thank you, Senior Apprentice Brother Feng. Feng Yunsheng received it. As Feng Moyang said, I believe that Zhaoga and Senior Apprentice Aunt Fu will be blessed by the heavens. There is no need to worry too much. If they knew that you and Junior Apprentice Sister Yin are safe and sound, they would also be happy. Feng Yunsheng nodded, not speaking. Feng Moyang looked at Feng Yunsheng. In the 7th Extreme Yin bout, I will first congratulate Junior Apprentice Sister Feng for dominating all others and returning with the moon. Hearing his words, Feng Yunsheng's gaze lit up. She did not say anything like, I will try my best, or do my best, as she just nodded solemnly, I will win. There was no arrogance or complacency, also no fear and trepidation, as she was stable as the great earth, firm as a mountain rock. Feng Qi also said, this child, not afraid of burdens, this old man is also not afraid of adding to your pressure. It's all up to you this time. I will borrow Senior Apprentice Uncle's auspicious words. Feng Yunsheng took her leave of Feng Qi and Feng Moyang. After exiting, she saw Sikong Qing and Ning Longtu both waiting there. Feng Yunsheng first nodded towards them, indicating that her injuries were already no longer a problem. As the 3 traveled together, Sikong Qing was the first to speak. Will the Sacred Sun Clan detain the Extreme Yin Crown and abolish the Extreme Yin bout just like this? Feng Yunsheng said, they won't. That would completely push Turbid Wave Pavilion towards our clan, and the Heavenly Thunder Hall might not be willing as well. While the Sacred Sun Clan has obtained the Heaven Cleaving Axe, they are still far from being able to reign supreme over us. Sikong Qing nodded, a cold light flickering within her clear eyes. That's good then. Feng Yinsheng sucked in a deep breath. Right, very good. Before her eyes, one face after another surfaced. There was that of her master Fu Enshu, that of her grand master Yuan Zhengfeng. Finally, it stopped on Yan Zhaoga's smiling face that appeared to be composed and orderly on the surface, yet was actually ostentatiously cocky. To be continued. Chapter 5:55. The Extreme Yin Crown and the Extreme Yin Bout. When Feng Yunsheng was still a child, having entered the Sacred Sun clan, her life had taken on a different meaning as a result. It was also from then onwards that obtaining the Extreme Yin Crown became Feng Yunsheng's life goal, the peak she had to ascend. If that was all, then perhaps it wouldn't be so unforgettable. However, it was possible that those who had experienced loss would feel even more deeply when faced with regaining what they had lost. This was the case for Feng Yunsheng. In the past, she had been a maiden of extreme Yin who had surpassed Meng Wan. The Sacred Sun clan's hopes of obtaining the Extreme Yin Crown had originally rested on her. However, an accident had caused the Extreme Yin energy in her body to be depleted. It was only afterwards that the Sacred Sun clan had been forced to let Meng Wan take her place. In the first Extreme Yin bout, the still young Meng Wan had fought a bitter battle against Jade Sea City's Chun Sutting, barely winning by a hair's breadth. That year, Feng Yunsheng had already fled the Sacred Sun clan. However, when those in the clan who were in the know mentioned this matter, they all still felt that it was a great pity, feeling that if Feng Yunsheng had been fine, the Extreme Yin Crown would have stably fallen into the hands of the Sacred Sun clan in this first Extreme Yin bout. The process would not have been so dangerous. As for Feng Yunsheng herself, her power of Extreme Yin had been depleted, and she had been forced to leave because she had injured Xiao Shen. Her originally bright life had instantly fallen from the pinnacle to the bottom. In recent years, Feng Yunsheng would sometimes wonder what her life would be like if she hadn't had that accident that year. Perhaps there would be a disciple of the Sacred Sun clan, Feng Muge, who had long since achieved her goal and stood atop that high peak wearing a crown on her head as she overlooked all others. But that way, there wouldn't be the current broad Creed Mountain disciple Feng Yunsheng. What kind of relationship did he have with Yan Zhaoga? His temper was even more straightforward than Meng Wan's. Presumably, the conflict between them would be even more intense, right? Thinking about it, Feng Yunsheng could not help but laugh, as if she could see Yan Zhaoga winking at her. You little girl, be careful. I'm a very petty person. None of my enemies have a good ending. Yeah, I know. Feng Yunsheng muttered to herself. I also know that you are very capable. You always give others a fright. You can do what others can't. So, this time, you will also return safely, right? Did you come back a long time ago? Did you hide somewhere and plan something? Are you going to come out suddenly and surprise everyone again? Yan Zhaoga's figure surfaced within Feng Yunsheng's mind. It was this person who seemed a little out of tune who had helped her stand up from the bottom of the valley, once more giving her a chance to once more charge towards the peak. Indeed, even if the power of Yin was exhausted, with Feng Yunsheng's talent in martial arts, her achievements in the future would still be very high. However, the thing that he had once cherished and lost was now back. The feeling of being able to see the light of day again after the haze was gone was especially memorable. However, at this time, Yan Zhaoga's whereabouts were unknown, even his fate unknown. Feng Yunsheng felt that these days were the most worrying days of her life. Unexpectedly, she suddenly remembered what her master Fu Enshu had said back then. When we are together, we are happy to spend time with each other and always think of each other. This is actually nothing. If you still think of him after you've separated, then you need to be vigilant. Feng Yunsheng sighed softly. She was already no longer always thinking of that person. It was not that there had never been parting before. However, it had never been like now, with no news at all. his fate unknown, no hope at all, only able to console herself unceasingly within her heart. Senior apprentice Sister Feng? Han Long, curiously waved his hands in front of Feng Yunsheng. Feng Yunsheng came to her senses, then shook her head and smiled lightly. Indeed, she was no longer always thinking of that person. She had never been lost in thought when thinking of someone like this before. The special circumstances, the parting of not knowing if they would ever meet again, caused some sort of throbbing within her heart to grow more and more intense, unceasingly fermenting until it was finally irreversible and could not be ignored. Feng Yunsheng did not resist, nor did she feel embarrassed. Whether this throbbing originated from Yan Zhaoge's gratitude towards her for helping her ascend to the peak once more, or her admiration towards Yan Zhaoge's various miracles, or perhaps that lonely desolation that Yan Zhaoge occasionally revealed that caused one to feel both curious and pained, Feng Yunsheng had no interest in distinguishing between them. She only knew that gratitude, longing, and pity might be sprouts, but at the end of the day, they were not true love. Feng Yunsheng did not have much experience in the relationship between a man and a woman. She was also unable to clearly describe her own feelings, only clearly confirming that gratitude, longing, and pity were all not those. Currently, walking within Broad Creed Mountain, she raised her head and looked up. The bright moon hung high in the night sky. In the past, whenever she raised her head and saw the moon, Feng Yunsheng would always think of the extreme crown. Currently, that crown seemed to be getting closer and closer to her. However, having returned from the East Sea and looked at the moon again, what Feng Yunsheng thought of was, in that unknown place, if someone raised their head and gazed up, would they also see such a bright moonlight? Gazing at the moonlight, Feng Yunsheng's gaze gradually regained its calm. In the extreme bout, as she grew stronger and stronger, as she got closer and closer to success, even Feng Yunsheng would instead feel a little anxious. This was human nature. However, having returned from the East Sea, these emotions had gradually been dispelled by Feng Yunsheng into formlessness. Extreme crown, I want to win. This thought grew more and more intense to the point of suppressing all other negative thoughts. However, this unprecedentedly intense will of Feng Yunsheng's for the sake of her long-cherished wish grew weaker and weaker. The source of her motivation now was a silent vow with someone else. Junior apprentice Sister Feng, swiveling her head calmly, Feng Yunsheng saw a group of people currently walking over, just happening to meet her, Sikong Qing and Ing Long Tu. The one who had greeted her was Jing Yunji. Beside her were Zhao Ming and the others, all of whom Feng Yunsheng had met when she had just entered Broad Creed Mountain. They were familiar with each other and on good terms. Everyone exchanged greetings, chatting as they came to the recent situation of the Eight Extremities world. Everyone here was a disciple of Broad Creed Mountain. They were naturally filled with deep hatred towards the Heavenly Thunder Hall for fleeing in the face of battle, distorting the truth, and stabbing the Sacred Sun clan in the back while resisting external enemies. Zhao Ming snorted. So what if the Sacred Sun clan has obtained the heaven-cleaving axe? They will have to spit it out sooner or later. Junior apprentice Sister Feng, having obtained the extreme crown and returned, the Sacred Sun clan and the Heavenly Thunder Hall will not be able to overturn the heavens. When the seal of the East Sea is completely completed and Chief returns, it will be time to settle this debt with them. Everyone nodded. Even if Huang Guanglia similarly returned from the East Sea, he would not be Yandi's match. Meanwhile, Old Man Mo and Jade Sea City's City Lord Song Wuliang would also not be biased towards the Sacred Sun clan and the Heavenly Thunder Hall. Jing Yunji looked at Feng Yunsheng, Junior apprentice Sister Feng. Focus on cultivating during this period of time. Also take good care of yourself, and do not go out tempering lest you be ambushed by bandits. Feng Yunsheng nodded. Rest easy, Senior apprentice sister. I know. for Broad Creed Mountain, for Grand Master, for Master, for Senior Apprentice Brother Yen, I will win. Chapter 556. Zhao Ming, Jing Yunji, and the rest looked at Feng Yunsheng and Si Kong Qing, comforting them. Elder Fu is definitely blessed by the heavens. Perhaps she and Senior Apprentice Brother Yen are the same as the old chief. The old chief Yuan Zhengfeng had been lost amidst the chaotic flows of space, his whereabouts unknown. While they of Broad Creed Mountain were worried, it also provided them with some consolation on some other matters. For example, regarding Yan Zhaoge and Fu Enshu's disappearance, Broad Creed Mountain had declared internally that the two had met with the same fate as Yuan Zhengfeng. Only those of the higher echelon, as well as people like Feng Yunsheng and Yin Luhua, who had previously traveled with Fu Enshu, knew that Yan Zhaoge and Fu Enshu's situation was a complete mystery. Saying that he was missing was more to reassure himself. Logically speaking, any cultivator below the Martial Saint realm who was sucked into the seal would definitely die. However, Feng Yunsheng's gaze was firm. She nodded and said, "Yes, Master, and the others will return safely." After chatting for a while, they suddenly saw a dignified middle-aged man walking over from the other end of the mountain path. Upon seeing this, Feng Yunsheng and the others saluted. "Greetings, Martial Uncle Chang." "Greetings, Elder Chang." This authoritative-looking middle-aged man was precisely Broad Creed Mountain's current first seed elder, Chang Zheng. Chang Zheng looked at everyone and said, "It's getting late. Go back and rest." His tone was very easygoing, without any intention of reprimand. Hearing this, everyone said, "Elder is right." Chang Zheng looked at Feng Yunsheng, saying, "There are only 100 days until the 7th extreme Yin bout. During this period of time, you and junior apprentice niece Yin should remain in the mountains and not go out. Cultivate and prepare seriously." Feng Yunsheng replied, "Yes, Martial Uncle Chang. I understand." Chang Zheng continued, "Junior apprentice brother remains in the East Sea, while junior apprentice sister Fu's and Zhaoge's whereabouts are currently unknown. Regarding the cultivation of the power of extreme Yin, the two of you cannot relax. Martial nephew Yin, you entered the sect late and your cultivation level is low. Junior sister Fu and Zhaoge need you to summarize the rules. Are you done?" Feng Yunsheng answered, "I've already done it and given it to Martial Uncle Wang." Chang Zheng nodded. "Junior apprentice sister Wang will temporarily guide you in your cultivation. It is just a matter of daily martial arts cultivation. She has only just begun to nurture the power of extreme Yin, and it is still very close to the 7th round of extreme Yin dampness. This time, it will be up to you all to work hard." Feng Yunsheng bowed. "Don't worry, Martial Uncle. I understand." Chang Zheng said, "All right, go back and rest early." After Feng Yunsheng and the others bowed and bid their farewells to Chang Zheng, they returned to their respective residences. Chang Zheng fell into deep contemplation as he watched Feng Yunsheng's departing figure. Now, a Broad Creed Mountain disciple came to look for Chang Zheng. Seeing the other party's rather panicked expression, Chang Zheng knit his brows slightly. "Calm yourself in times of trouble. What is it?" While he had been admonished, the panic on this Broad Creed Mountain disciple's face did not lessen. Hearing the report, a look of surprise also appeared in Chang Zheng's eyes. "There was such a matter?" He composed himself and thought for a while before saying, "Don't make this public yet. Bring them to the punishment hall to see me." After that disciple had left, Chang Zheng stood unmoving where he was for a long time, an indistinct voice resounding in the air. Could it be the will of heaven? Feng Yunsheng returned to her residence, sitting down in the meditative position, as she silently cultivated. Her heart jolted slightly as she took out her accompanying shadow shrinking pouch. Opening it, she instantly frowned. pouring out a few fragments that resembled crystals from the shadow shrinking pouch. Feng Yunsheng felt puzzled. Why did they suddenly shatter? It seems to have been triggered by some external force. Those crystal fragments resembled weathered sand sculptures as they shattered unceasingly in Feng Yunsheng's palm, finally turning into fine powder that dissipated within the air. Feng Yunsheng tried to use her aura qi to protect it, but it was to no avail. This was something that resembled a spiritual orb that she had inadvertently obtained in the East Sea after the seal had been formed and the heavens and earth had fallen into chaos. After pondering for a while, Feng Yunsheng discovered that she was unable to grasp the gist of it. There was nothing stored within the orb, and it also did not contain any spiritual energy, much less any danger. After pondering, Feng Yunsheng could only feel that this thing seemed to be a supplementary item of some unique treasure. Seeing that there was nothing to gain from it, she had just kept it in her shadow shrinking pouch and kept it with her. There had never been any problems before. Who knew that something would suddenly happen today? This seems to be a supplementary item of some treasure. Now that something has happened, perhaps it has been triggered by that treasure? Feng Yunsheng pondered. Where exactly did it come from? The orb shattered and turned into dust, leaving no traces behind. Feng Yunsheng vaguely felt that it was rather strange, but could not understand why. A night passed. Feng Yunsheng pushed open the door to her room, welcoming the morning sunlight as she walked out. She was about to call in Lu Hua when someone came looking for her outside. Seeing that it was an elder of the disciplinary hall who had come, Feng Yunsheng could not help but be slightly taken aback. Asking what was the matter, the other party only said that it was the first seat elder Chang Zheng, who wanted her to make a trip to the disciplinary hall. After arriving at the disciplinary hall, Feng Yunsheng saw that other than Chang Zheng, the grand elder Zhang Kuan was shockingly present as well. Having consecutively experienced major events, Broad Creed Mountain had suffered great losses. Currently, the two grand elders, Zhang Kuan and He Ning, held the highest positions in the mountain. Elder He had been injured in the Battle of the East Sea and was currently recuperating in secluded cultivation. Meanwhile, Elder Zhang was mostly helping the heavily injured and unconscious Fang Zhuan, not appearing easily. Now that he had actually appeared in the disciplinary hall, something extremely important must have happened. After Feng Yunsheng greeted Chang Zheng and Zhang Kuan, Chang Zheng said nothing, just indicating for her to wait by the side. A short while later, yet another elder arrived. It was the first seat elder of the East Heaven region, Elder Qin, whom Feng Yunsheng had met once before. Currently, a great many long-time elders of Broad Creed Mountain had died in battle. Elder Qin was already one of the few who remained. After Yan Di had become chief, the position of first seat elder of the Martial Inheritance Hall had been taken over by another elder. However, this elder had perished in the great battle of the Earth Domain this time. Elder Qin had returned to the mountain, this time to assume the position of first seat elder of the Martial Inheritance Hall. After everyone had taken their seats, Chang Zheng looked at Feng Yunsheng, asking slowly, "Junior apprentice niece Feng, I have asked you to come this time because I want you to tell me again about the matter of junior apprentice sister Fu having been ambushed alongside you in the East Sea previously." Feng Yunsheng found it rather strange as she answered, "That day, Master Junior Apprentice Sister Yin and I were traveling together. The flame devils rampaged in the outer East Sea. The two sides engaged in a great battle. Chief and the others were about to establish the seal, the situation becoming even more chaotic. As we were battling with the flame devils, the grand elder of the Sacred Sun clan, Meng Feng, appeared. From his words and actions, it did not seem like a coincidence. Instead, he had specifically attacked us after confirming our position. I was separated from Master and Junior Apprentice Sister Ian. As the frenzied tides caused by the seals swept outwards, I tried to retreat. Afterwards, I heard martial practitioners of the other clans mention that they saw Master and Meng Feng being swept along by the power of the seal from afar, vanishing without a trace. Afterwards, an elder of the clan found me and Junior Apprentice Sister Ian, bringing us back to the mountain. Hearing Feng Yunxing's words, Chang Zheng looked at her, only asking after a while, "You also feel that it was not a coincidence? Then, how do you think the Sacred Sun Clan found your whereabouts?" Feng Yunxing felt that something was wrong as she saw Chang Zheng, Zhang Kuan, and Elder Qin all staring at her. "Senior Apprentice Uncle Chang, you seem to be implying something." Feng Yunxing sucked in a deep breath. "I feel that it was not a coincidence. It was because the Sacred Sun Clan's Meng Feng said, 'Indeed here, let's see where you can run to.' Therefore, I deduced that he knew our whereabouts." However, this disciple does not understand how he knew. Chang Zheng looked calmly at her, saying mildly, "Is that so? But now, there is a lone warrior who is familiar with our sect, and he has accused you of revealing Junior Sister Fu's whereabouts." To be continued. Chapter 5, 57. Me. Feng Yunsheng looked shockingly at Chang Zheng, only to see both Chang Zheng and Zhang Kuan looking at her with solemn expressions on their faces. Feng Yunsheng composed herself, saying in a heavy tone, "The debt of gratitude towards Master is as heavy as a mountain. How could I possibly divulge her whereabouts to those of the Sacred Sun Clan?" Elder Qin had only hurried over in shock after having received Chang Zheng's notification earlier, not understanding the details of the matter. Seeing that Feng Yunsheng did not seem to be faking it, he sent a sound transmission to Chang Zheng and Zhang Kuan doubtfully. Could it be an unintentional mistake? Chang Zheng shook his head lightly, saying, "Not only did the other party accuse you of divulging Junior Apprentice Sister Fu's whereabouts, he also gave you the reason for doing so." Feng Yunsheng raised her brows slightly. "What did he falsely accuse me of? Whether it is a false accusation or not is not something that can be determined with just a few words." Chang Zheng glanced at Feng Yunsheng, his tone turning cold. "According to the other party, you divulged Junior Apprentice Sister Fu's whereabouts because she discovered that you were secretly interacting with the Sacred Sun Clan, your relationship unclear. After discovering that Junior Apprentice Sister Fu had discovered your secret, in order to keep it a secret, you sold her out to those of the Sacred Sun Clan. They're experts coming to silence you. Meng Feng's original target was not you and Junior Apprentice niece Ian, who are maidens of extreme Ian. Junior Apprentice Sister Fu also did not meet with danger in order to protect you. Instead, it was the Sacred Sun Clan who had been targeting Junior Apprentice Sister Fu from the start. Junior Apprentice Sister Fu was the one they wanted to get rid of." Feng Yunsheng was first greatly enraged, but she forced herself to calm down. "May I ask where the informant that Senior Apprentice Uncle speaks of is? I am willing to confront him face to face. The other party is purely spouting nonsense, making things up out of nothing." Elder Qin looked somewhat doubtfully at Chang Zheng and Zhang Kuan. Feng Yunsheng was not an ordinary disciple of Broad Creed Mountain. Accurately speaking, she was not an ordinary direct disciple of Broad Creed Mountain. While she was inferior to Yen Zhaoga, she possessed a special significance that ordinary people did not possess. To the entire clan, she possessed a strategic value that far surpassed her current strength and cultivation base. It would be fine if she was useless, but from her performance in the 5th and 6th Extreme Een bouts, Feng Yunsheng was already the strongest contender for the Extreme Een crown. It was publicly acknowledged by the entire 8 Extremities world that the Sacred Sun Clan's Meng one might not be able to come out on top in this 7th Extreme Een bout. Although Feng Yunsheng had lost to Meng Wan by a single move in the sixth extreme Yin bout, the momentum of her improvement was even fiercer than Meng Wan's. In the current eight extremities world, Feng Yunsheng's name had already spread far and wide. Because of Yan Zhaoge's existence, virtually all of Broad Creed Mountain's younger generation were enveloped by his radiance, Feng Yunsheng being a rare exception. Such a disciple was a treasure among treasures to any force and could be treated as half a saint weapon. He had to protect his own family, and he had to think of ways to deal with his enemies. Generally speaking, the sect would naturally be biased towards their own disciples when it came to such accusations from the outside world. This was the case for Elder Qin. After meeting Yan Zhaoge and Feng Yunsheng in the Eastern Tang Kingdom of the East Heaven region that year, he had first made the decision to have Feng Yunsheng stay behind. All along, his impression of Yan Zhaoge and Feng Yunsheng had been pretty good. At this moment, the crime that Feng Yunsheng was accused of was actually not of leaking Fu Anshu's whereabouts, but of intentionally colluding with the enemy and murdering her master. Elder Qin's first reaction was disbelief. After all, betraying the clan, colluding with the enemy and deceiving one's master and killing one's master were all great crimes of the first order, no matter which sect it was. As soon as it was verified, there would be no other outcome other than death. The Sacred Sun clan had always wanted to get rid of Feng Yunsheng, and it was still like this even now. Feng Yunsheng's situation was rather special. Not just when she had entered the clan, she had been subjected to Broad Creed Mountain's investigations both overtly and covertly for a rather long period of time afterwards, finally passing all of them, thus achieving her current status. Elder Qin felt that under such circumstances, there shouldn't be any problems with Feng Yunsheng. If there had been, it should have been discovered long ago. Why would they have waited until now? Looking at Elder Qin, Chang Zheng slowly nodded. Seeing his solemn look, Elder Qin's heart sank. Chang Zheng swiveled his head to look at Feng Yunsheng, first not mentioning the matter of confronting her, as he instead asked, when you were separated from junior apprentice Sister Fu, was junior apprentice niece Yin still together with her, or were they separated as well? At that time, master and junior apprentice sister Yin should have been together. It was only I who was blown away by a hurricane-like flow of qi, Feng Yunsheng answered. Afterwards, I heard junior apprentice sister Yin say that she was separated from master after that as well. Chang Zheng asked again, after you were separated from junior apprentice sister Fu and the others, did you meet anyone else? Feng Yunsheng shook her head. No. The next person I met was found by the clan's elders. Chang Zheng stared at Feng Yunsheng for a while before he slowly said, there is indeed a need to confront her, but not with you. He sent his voice out with his true essence. Bring Hong Jiechi in. Hong Jiechi was the one who had come to testify against Feng Yunsheng. He was a solitary martial practitioner active in the region of the East Sea, possessing an essence spirit martial grandmaster cultivation base, as he belonged to no clan or clan. Chang Zheng looked at Hong Jiechi. We are old acquaintances. This Chang is deeply moved by your specially rushing over to deliver this news. Still, this matter is of great importance. Junior apprentice niece Feng is our clan's direct disciple, her performance having always been outstanding. Hong Jiechi said calmly, Elder Chang, it is precisely because you and I are acquainted that I have made this trip. Let's not even mention the matters of the past. Just this time alone, your clan has suppressed the Earth domain on one hand and battled the flame devils on the other, sacrificing countless experts on the other. Your sacrifices are immense, your contributions lasting for many generations to come. In the eight extremities world, having been able to tide through the great tribulation of the flame devils and the 9 underworld's evil devils this time, your clan's greatest contribution is to stab us in the back. Instead, the Sacred Sun clan stabbed us in the back when the entire Eight Extremities world was resisting external enemies together. While I belong to no clan or clan, and my cultivation base is shallow, I too cannot stand the actions of such vile people. I am even more unwilling for your clan to still be schemed against by the schemes of the ghost domain, after having already shed blood and sacrificed for this human realm. Therefore, I have made this trip. Hong Jiechi cupped his hands towards Changzheng and the others. I am also not very clear on the detailed situation of your clan's disciples, also not knowing if there are still secrets hidden within. I can only narrate what I have seen and heard. As for how to deal with this, I believe that Elder Chang, and you all will naturally be able to decide. Feng Yunsheng frowned as she looked at Hong Jiechi. I am not acquainted with you. Could there be some misunderstanding here? Hong Jiechi swiveled his head to look at Feng Yunsheng. You are Feng Yunsheng? Feng Yunsheng said, That's right. Hong Jiechi glanced deeply at Feng Yunsheng, saying in a rather obscure tone, You and I have indeed never met before. It is fortunate that this is so. Otherwise, I might have long since ended up like your master. Feng Yunsheng raised her brows, Changzheng raising a hand to stop her from speaking. Junior apprentice niece Feng, I have already said that the one who wants to confront him is not you. He then raised his voice. Junior apprentice niece Yin, please come in. Feng Yunsheng was taken aback. Swiveling her head, she saw Yin Luhua enter the great hall, looking at Hong Jiechi, and Yin Luhua. Changzheng said, In order to return the truth, the blood soul recollection ceremony will be carried out. Do the two of you have any objections? Chapter 558. Miss Yin, it is all thanks to you that our Sacred Sun clan was able to find the location of you master and disciple. No, it's not like that. I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't know that you were of the Sacred Sun clan at all. I didn't do it on purpose. That's right, you indeed didn't know that I was of the Sacred Sun clan. However, would your Broad Creed Mountain believe your words? Even if they did, even if it was an unintentional mistake, do you think that you won't have to bear responsibility for it? I didn't know that it would turn out like this. If it was Feng Yunsheng who had committed such an unintentional mistake, perhaps a few words of reprimand might have been enough. However, you are different. With such an outstanding person by your side as a comparison, it would already be wrong for you not to have made a mistake, let alone adding to your mistake now. You don't have to say any more. Let me go. I won't reveal your identity. Miss Yin, the one you should be exposing is not me, but your senior apprentice sister. What did you say? Feng Yunsheng has actually always been of my Sacred Sun clan, lying in ambush in Broad Creed Mountain. In the end, your master Enshu saw through her in the East Sea this time. Before your master could be completely sure, she made the first move, contacting our Sacred Sun clan's Elder Meng and killing Fu Enshu to silence her. What do you think of this truth? How? I understand. Your Sacred Sun clan has no confidence in winning the extreme Yin bout this time, thus resorting to such a method. This is not something you should be concerned about. What you need to consider is, if it wasn't her who leaked the secret, it would be you returning from the East Sea. These voices had been reverberating unceasingly within Yin Liuhua's mind. But gradually, a new idea popped up, like the Heavenly Thunder Hall and Infinite Boundless Mountain. If they only had a single maiden of extreme Yin, no matter what her results were, the Heavenly Thunder Hall and Infinite Boundless Mountain would only be able to pinch their noses and accept it. Even if there was just the slightest possibility, they would still put in their greatest effort. The Heavenly Thunder Hall's Nian Lei and Infinite Boundless Mountain's Ling Hui had practically always been at the bottom of the extreme Yin bouts every year, but their positions in their respective clans had always been special. At least, even now, the patience of the Heavenly Thunder Hall and Infinite Boundless Mountain had still not run out yet. If it's just me, gradually, all the other voices vanished, with only this one remaining gradually filling in Liu Hua's mind. "Marshal Nephew Yin, please come in." Hearing Chang Zheng's voice, Liu Hua's entire body shivered as she regained her wits. She took a deep breath, knowing that the most crucial moment of her life had arrived. After entering the great hall, Liu Hua bowed towards Zhang Kuan, Chang Zheng, and the others. Chang Zheng pointed at Hong Jiechi. "This Mr. Hong testifies that junior apprentice Nis Feng is a spy of the Sacred Sun clan who has infiltrated our clan, also claiming that it was because junior apprentice Sister Fu discovered this secret that she was betrayed by junior apprentice Nis Feng, drawing over experts of the Sacred Sun clan to silence her. He said that apart from him, you were also a witness. He said that he could perform the blood soul recollection ritual with you to prove it. Is there such a thing? Why haven't I heard you mention this before?" Chang Zheng stared intently at Liu Hua. Not only was he the first seat elder in charge of the clan's disciplinary laws, he was also a late Essence Talisman martial grandmaster. His gaze seemed to be able to crush Liu Hua's body, as no secrets could be hidden from her. Liu Hua's body trembled, her soul nearly scattering. However, she then felt that while Chang Zheng's gaze still seemed the same, it was no longer as shocking to her as it had been at the start. Zhang Kuan and Elder Qin clearly trusted Chang Zheng greatly, not intending to overstep their authority as they left the situation to the first seat elder of the disciplinary hall, Chang Zheng. Liu Hua composed herself, saying timidly, "This disciple cannot be certain." At that time, Master was clashing with the enemy. This disciple did not dare to get close at all, even being blown all over by the aftershocks of their battle, unable to distinguish north from south. All that I saw and heard were also just words, fragmented and fragmented. She glanced at Feng Yunsheng. Senior apprentice Sister Feng has always performed well, also taking great care of this disciple. This disciple feels that she must have been mistaken, therefore not daring to speak nonsense. Chang Zheng asked, "Mr. Han wants to perform the blood soul recollection ritual with you. Are you willing?" Looking rather worriedly at Feng Yunsheng, Liu Hua said hesitantly, This disciple. Feng Yunsheng looked fixedly at Liu Hua, her gaze shifting between Liu Hua and Hong Jiechi. Zhang Kuan and Elder Qin both frowned. Seeing this, Chang Zheng flicked his finger, a streak of light flying into the air, transforming into a pillar of light within the great hall as it enveloped both Liu Hua and Hong Jiechi. Hong Jiechi did not hesitate in the slightest as he pricked his finger, a bit of fresh blood seeping out, forming a thread of blood which coiled within the pillar of light. Under Chang Zheng's guidance, Liu Hua did the same. The next moment, a mirror of light slowly descended within the great hall. An image appeared within the mirror of light. As everyone looked over, shocked looks could not help but appear on their faces. That was the scene of the seal having already been formed that day, the power of the seal causing frenzied tides to spread unceasingly in all directions. Then, they saw Fu Enshu currently in the midst of a great battle with Meng Feng. To really think, the disciple that I, Fu Enshu, am most proud of, was actually raised by the Sacred Sun clan. Fu Enshu's voice resounded amidst the tempest, filled with disappointment and hatred. What a good ruse your Sacred Sun clan played, sacrificing even Pan Buatai's grandson. Meng Feng's voice was majestic as the heavens. If you had not discovered Mu Ji's secret, you could originally have been allowed to live for a little longer. After all, according to Mu Gu, you trusted and cared for her greatly. Sadly, however, you just had to be meddlesome, sending yourself to your death in the end. You cannot blame others for that. Fu Enshu said coldly, "Even if I die, I will also drag you, old fart of the Sacred Sun clan, down with me." As the two sides battled to their heart's content, Fu Enshu made a risky move, pushing herself and Meng Fong into the frenzied tides formed of the power of the seal, perishing together with them. The scene of light vanished at this point, the tragic aura within seeming to still circulate within the great hall. Zhang Kuan and Elder Qin exchanged looks, their faces darkening. Yin Liuhua's body shook, as she looked rather shockingly at Feng Yunsheng. Feng Yunsheng no longer looked at Hong Jiechi, instead staring straight at Yin Liuhua. Chang Zheng waved his hands, cutting off Feng Yunsheng's forceful gaze from Yin Liuhua as he said slowly, "Junior apprentice niece Feng, it is not that you are not being given a chance to defend yourself. What do you have to say?" Feng Yunsheng said, "It wasn't me." Chang Zheng asked, "Then who was it?" Feng Yunsheng looked at Yin Liuhua once more. Yin Liuhua had initially been separated from them, only having been able to reunite with them with the help of others. As the situation had been too chaotic at that time, Fu Enshu had not mentioned it to Feng Yunsheng after receiving Yin Liuhua. However, Feng Yunsheng clearly knew that she was not a spy of the Sacred Sun clan. Therefore, there was definitely something wrong with this blood soul recollection ceremony. Either the scene was fake, or her master Fu Enshu had been misled by someone back then, thus misunderstanding her. Feng Yunsheng felt that she had been schemed against by someone. It was not just a single person. Instead, it was as if a great net had enveloped over her. Fury blazed within Feng Yunsheng's eyes. She closed them before opening them again, her gaze much calmer than before. "I was falsely accused by someone." Her gaze swept across Yin Liuhua and Hong Jiechi. The blood soul recollection ceremony can similarly be faked. Hearing her words, Hong Jiechi smiled coldly. Yin Liuhua pursed her lips tightly. While her expression could still be considered calm, her heart tightened. Feng Yunsheng's words were equivalent to pointing the spearhead at her. There was no longer any leeway between them as fellow disciples. To be continued. Chapter 5:59. Feng Yunsheng wasn't sure how the movements of her master and disciples had been discovered by the Sacred Sun clan. But when she carefully recalled the experience, she was sure that it wasn't her fault. Before today, she had not been willing to doubt Yin Liuhua. However, after seeing this blood soul recollection ritual, Feng Yunsheng could not help but think about it. She did not understand exactly what had happened back then. Chang Zheng had asked her to provide evidence that someone had leaked the secret, but she did not have it on hand. Feng Yunsheng told herself to calm down. Her gaze swept across Yin Liuhua and Hong Jiechi as she said in a clear voice, "The blood soul recollection ceremony can similarly be faked. I request the clan to investigate junior apprentice Sister Yin and this Mr. Hong thoroughly." Chang Zheng's expression was as per usual as he said, unhurriedly, "Of course." Feng Yunsheng said, taking 10,000 steps back. "Even if there is no problem with the blood soul recollection ceremony, the scene back then could also be that Master was misled by those of the Sacred Sun clan, thus misunderstanding me." Chang Zheng said, "That is indeed a possibility, but according to what you have said, there is the suspicion of sophistry. Because this is purely a one-sided statement, it cannot be used as evidence to prove your innocence. Junior apprentice niece Yin and Mr. Hong, the clan will be conducting a thorough investigation afterwards." Chang Zheng swiveled his head to appraise Hong Jiechi and Yin Liuhua, the two of them nodding in understanding. Hong Jiechi said emotionally, "Making a false accusation is the same as committing the same crime. It's the same wherever I go. Since I dared to come to Broad Creed Mountain, I naturally fear no crooked shadows." Chang Zheng nodded, turning his head to look at Feng Yunsheng once more. Then, "Junior apprentice niece Feng, can you bring up any other examples to prove your innocence? After all, according to what you said earlier, you weren't there when the video happened." Feng Yunsheng took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "Yes, I doubt the authenticity of the Blood Soul recollection ceremony, but I'm unable to prove that it's fake, because I wasn't there at that time, and I was separated from Master and Junior Sisterine. Even what happened to Master was something that I only found out after hearing about it from someone else. However, my relationship with the Sacred Sun clan has long since been severed. It is even more impossible for me to kill my master. Feng Yunxing said resolutely and decisively. I dare not say that I have made any contributions in these years, but I have never been disloyal. It is the school and master who have given me a new life. Raising her head, Feng Yunxing looked straight at them, saying that I am a spy of the Sacred Sun clan. It is only this scene where it is hard to distinguish the truth from the falsehood, the cause and effect of which are unclear. Is there any other proof? If I secretly collude with the Sacred Sun clan and want to contact them, there should at least be a channel or a way to do so, right? Saying that I leaked the secret to the Sacred Sun clan, drawing people over to kill Master? How did I draw them over? Chang Zheng looked at Feng Yunsheng, saying calmly, "In a while, I will also inspect your belongings and residence. Do you have any objections?" Feng Yunsheng shook her head. "Any time." Elder Qin sat there, not speaking a single word. After a long time, he sent a sound transmission to Chang Zheng, and Zhang Kuan, such an outstanding disciple, the Sacred Sun clan would be willing to send him out as a spy. Chang Zheng said her extreme Yin physique was originally crippled. While her talent in the martial Tao is outstanding, it is not impossible. Her being able to regain her extreme Yin physique in our clan, I believe that even the Sacred Sun clan did not expect it. Elder Qin asked, "What about the extreme Yin bout? There are only 3 months left. You must know that Feng Yunsheng stands a great chance this time." Zhang Kuan's brows were knit tightly as Chang Zheng said, "I'm afraid that junior apprentice niece Feng will not be able to participate in the extreme Yin bout this time." Elder Qin said, "Currently, we still cannot prove that Feng Yunsheng is a traitor who is colluding with outsiders. While there is the Blood Soul recollection ceremony, we cannot make a judgment based on this. This would not be fair to Feng Yunsheng." Zhang Kuan and Chang Zheng both looked at Elder Qin. Elder Qin's expression was calm. Back then, it had been he who had first agreed to Yan Zhaoga taking Feng Yunsheng in, even having not hesitated to come into conflict with the Sacred Sun clan over it. If Feng Yunsheng really was a hidden pawn of the Sacred Sun clan, Yan Zhaoga would bear the heaviest responsibility, as Elder Qin would be implicated as well. However, Elder Qin's temper was fiery and unyielding, as he had no intention of avoiding suspicion or protecting his own safety in the least, as he still spoke his mind. Chang Zheng said, if it had been confirmed that she was guilty, she would already have been publicly executed. Elder Qin glared at him. "What do you mean?" "Everything is still unknown now. I myself am also not willing to believe that junior apprentice niece Feng is such a person. I hope that her innocence can be proven in the investigations that follow. However, it is indeed unsuitable for her to continue participating in the upcoming extreme Yin bout." Looking at Zhang Kuan and Elder Qin, Chang Zheng said slowly, "It might be disrespectful to say this, but her problem is not merely that she caused junior apprentice Sister Fu to meet with misfortune." Hearing his words, Zhang Kuan and Elder Qin were both silent for a moment, as they seemed to have thought of something. Chang Zheng continued, "With the current situation, the results of this 7th extreme Yin bout are extremely important. The extreme Yin crown cannot continue to remain in the hands of the Sacred Sun clan. Otherwise, when the heaven-cleaving axe in their hands recovers, it will be extremely hard to deal with. If Feng Yunsheng really is a hidden pawn of the Sacred Sun clan, with her already knowing that she has been exposed now, if she wins the extreme Yin bout with the extreme Yin crown in hand, who among us would be able to suppress her? She would definitely betray, and flee on the spot before returning to the Sacred Sun clan. It would be equivalent to us gifting the extreme Yin crown to the Sacred Sun clan. Elder Qin said, the Sacred Sun clan's Meng Wan was injured in the East Sea this time. It is precisely because they themselves do not have the confidence to win that they have dealt a blow to our clan's maiden of extreme Yin, causing us to fall into disarray. That would be equivalent to gifting the extreme Yin crown to the Sacred Sun clan. Chang Zheng nodded. That's right, this is indeed a possibility. However, who can guarantee that Feng Yinsheng will definitely be fine? Elder Qin wanted to say something, but Chang Zheng said, therefore, I suggest that we compromise. Zhang Kuen's white brows twitched slightly. Compromise? How do we compromise? Chang Zheng said, firstly, we have to guarantee that the extreme Yin crown definitely cannot continue to remain in the hands of the Sacred Sun clan. Elder Qin and Zhang Kuen both nodded. That's right. The Sacred Sun clan's Meng Wan is injured, and her injuries are very severe as she definitely will not be able to recover within a short period of time. She will definitely repeat the same mistake she made in the second extreme Yin bout. Chang Zheng said, Feng Yinsheng cannot be guaranteed, but there are still others who can defeat Meng Wan. Zhang Kuen's expression changed slightly. You mean? Chang Zheng nodded. Jade Sea City's Chinsutting cannot be guaranteed, but Turbid Wave Pavilion's fan show can stably defeat the Sacred Sun clan's Yun Xiuqing and also defeat the injured Meng Wan. It is fine if we cannot obtain the extreme Yin crown, but we definitely cannot let it continue to remain in the hands of the Sacred Sun clan. Having it fall into the hands of Turbid Wave Pavilion would be an acceptable outcome. Chang Zheng's gaze swept past Zhang Kuen as he said softly, Master, our clan actually only needs to seek stability now. Chief is invincible beneath the heavens. As long as we can make this transition smoothly, when Chief returns from the East Sea, even if Huang Guanglia returns together with him, they will also not be our clan's match. Because of Chief's shocking strength in transcending mortality and entering sainthood, Turbid Wave Pavilion might actually have some thoughts about it. It is instead not appropriate for our clan to stand out too much now. Hearing his words, Elder Qin frowned greatly. However, he knew that the Grand Elder Zhang Kuen's style had always been conservative. The other Grand Elder, He Ning, who was not present and was currently recuperating from her injuries, was similarly gentle and conservative. That year, they had rather disliked the aggressive, tough style of Yan Di, Fang Juan, Shi Tai, and the other experts of the senior generation. While Shi Tai had perished, as the strength and influence of Yan Di, Fang Juan, and the others had increased day by day, as well as Yuan Jingfeng's support, the clan had grown stronger and stronger. The gentle style had gradually lost its appeal. However, following the Great Battle of the Earth Domain and the East Sea, the clan had been empty, the gentle and conservative style rising once more. Elder Qin looked at Chang Zheng. In his memories, while Chang Zheng was Zhang Kuen's disciple, his thoughts were rather neutral, not being purely of the gentle faction. To be continued. Chapter 560. Elder Qin looked towards Chang Zheng. Chang Zheng's expression was as per usual, but there was some worry amidst his solemnity. Was it because the sect had suffered a series of major changes and had lost too many peak experts, causing Chang Zheng to lean more towards moderation and conservatism, or was there some other reason? Elder Qin couldn't see through him. After a moment of silence, Zhang Kuen finally said, Now that you are the first seat of the disciplinary hall, you have full authority over this matter. Chang Zheng answered, Yes, master. While Feng Yinsheng and Yin Luhua were not directly detained, both of them were restricted from going out, their movements being monitored as if they were under house arrest. What awaited them and Hong Jiechi was a complicated investigation. Feng Yinsheng warned herself to remain calm and accept all of this peacefully, not delaying her daily cultivation. There were still around 100 days before the extreme Yin bout. If she could prove her innocence, she could still make it in time to participate. While Zhang Kuan and the others wanted to simply give up on this extreme Yin bout, the opportunity this time was extremely great, causing Broad Creed Mountain to hesitate somewhat. While Changzheng was fully in charge of this matter, with the strong arguments of Elder Qin, and the others as well as the tacit approval of the two grand elders, he did not withhold any benefits from Feng Yunsheng and Yin Luhua, allowing them to cultivate as per normal. The investigation continued, with Changzheng personally presiding over it. Feng Yunsheng's things are all here? Changzheng asked. Beside him, a female elder surnamed Wang, who was currently temporarily guiding Feng and Yin in their cultivation, replied, "Everything is here, including her shadow shrinking pouch. However, I did not see her shadow shrinking pouch, so I sealed it properly and handed it over to you. However, I can be sure that she did not hide anything else on her." Changzheng nodded soundlessly, his expression not changing. But his heart was full of doubts. No, where did they go? Did she not bring it back to the mountain? Some gloominess flashed through Changzheng's gaze. Could it be that she already knows? No, she probably doesn't know. Otherwise, she wouldn't have such a reaction. Since she hasn't been able to open it after such a long time, it means that she obtained this treasure by accident and doesn't know how to use it. That's good. I still have a chance. But where is it? Looks like I can only slowly torture her. When the other party indicated that he had found a shadow spirit talisman in her shadow shrinking pouch, Feng Yunsheng's brows instantly raised. She was now even more certain that someone was plotting against her. But who was it, or rather, who was it? Feng Yunsheng looked straight at Changzheng, who was in front of her. Changzheng's expression was similarly calm, not the slightest hint of anything amiss. The shadow spirit talisman has yet to be used, and there is no way to confirm who it can be used to contact. However, a one-time spirit talisman that can be used for training over a relatively long distance was discovered in your shadow shrinking pouch. You are becoming more and more suspicious. It also means that certain people are becoming more and more suspicious, Feng Yunsheng said quietly. Changzheng asked, "Can junior apprentice niece Yin come into contact with your shadow shrinking pouch?" "Sure." Feng Yunsheng looked at him and said slowly, "This shadow spirit talisman is not mine." Changzheng said, "But there are traces of your stellar energy aura on it." Feng Yunsheng replied, "It's possible to collect them at the places where I've been cultivating." Changzheng nodded. "That's right. I will investigate this matter clearly. However, if there's anything you haven't reported, it's best to make it clear now. If it comes out again, it will only increase the suspicion on you." He glanced at Feng Yunsheng. "Make a list of all the places you've been in recently, especially since heading to the East Sea. The disciplinary hall will investigate them one by one. Remember not to leave anything out. That would only be detrimental to you." Feng Yunsheng answered, "I didn't leave anything out. I've said all the places that I can be certain of." Changzheng nodded, leaving just like that. What caused Feng Yunsheng to feel anxious was that as time passed, the supervision on her instead grew increasingly strict. Her cultivation arrangements with Yin Luhua were gradually being disrupted, all the resources of the clan being supplied to her being affected as well. While she had not been imprisoned in the disciplinary hall, the checks on her grew increasingly strict, the interrogations becoming more and more frequent. Feng Yunsheng did not covet special treatment, but the problem reflected from these changes was that the clan, or rather the disciplinary hall, was increasingly distrustful of her. Seeing that the seventh extreme Yin bout was about to arrive, the influence on her cultivation had instead grown greater. This indicated that the clan would very likely forbid her from participating in this extreme Yin bout. This was what worried Feng Yunsheng the most. Currently, on the Sacred Sun Clan's world illuminating peak, the chief Huang Su and his son Huang Jia were seated facing each other. Looking at his son, Huang Su said, "No news has come after such a long time. It looks like everything is going smoothly. The only thing I don't understand is why you are so certain that Changzheng will act according to our plan." Huang Jia's expression did not change as he answered, "It is not according to our plan, but his own. We are making use of him, and he is also making use of us. It is just that he doesn't know that his plan is precisely what I want him to do. If not for this person, it would not have been easy for Yin Luhua to pass the first trial, and it would have been very easy for her to reveal a flaw. Only this first seat of Broad Creed Mountain's disciplinary hall would have been able to help her along the way." Huang Su asked, "What I find strange is precisely why Changzheng wants to do this." Huang Jie said, "Because he has his own selfish motives. He wants to obtain something from Feng Yunsheng, yet also wants to keep it a secret. Therefore, if Feng Yunsheng commits a crime, he can openly investigate it." "What thing?" Huang Su looked at Huang Jie. "It looks like you are very clear about it." Huang Jie retrieved an orb, placing it before Huang Su. "I am indeed clear about it because the thing that Changzheng wants is actually in my hands." He tapped the orb lightly, images of light appearing within. "The images recorded by this heaven-spying orb of mine cannot be faked. Therefore, it is irrefutable evidence." Looking through it, Huang Su's gaze instantly lit up. "So that's how it is. Infinite boundless mountains, Li Jingtu actually died at his hands." Huang Jian nodded. "That day, Li Jingtu was heavily injured by you and the other elders, fleeing with the heaven-cleaving axe. Encountering this Changzheng, he was blinded by greed for the heaven-cleaving axe as he killed Li Jingtu and even destroyed the evidence. Who knew that while the heaven-cleaving axe was heavily injured, it did not lose its spirituality as it fled while he was battling with Li Jingtu, ultimately still ending up in your hands. Changzheng dirted his own hands, but at the end of the day, he still ended up benefiting our sacred Sun clan. The heaven-spying orb is a mother-child orb. The child orb that recorded all of this was discovered and destroyed by Changzheng, but he recognized the heaven-spying orb. Therefore, he is searching for the core orb itself." Huang Su thought for a moment. "You made him think that the heaven-spying orb is in Feng Yunxing's hands." Huang Jie answered, "Actually, it was an accident. Feng Yunxing inadvertently obtained a child orb. After discovering it, I felt that it might be a good opportunity. Therefore, I guided Changzheng to pay attention to Feng Yunsheng. Generally speaking, the heaven-spying orb has always been a mother-child orb. Only mine is special, being the first in recorded history to have 3 children. Therefore, Changzheng does not know that the orb in Feng Yunxing's hands is also a child orb. If we directly divulge the matter, Changzheng's days will not be easy, and Broad Creed Mountain will not be able to account to Infinite Boundless Mountain. If we divulge it later, Changzheng will not be able to escape. Still, before that, he can help us." "Where is that child orb now?" Huang Su asked. Huang Jia held that orb in his palm. "It was shattered by me. Therefore, no matter how Changzheng searches, he will not be able to find it. Also, Feng Yunxing's cultivation base is still insufficient to destroy the heaven-spying orb. Therefore, Changzheng will more likely think that the orb has been hidden by Feng Yunxing. However, he is also unable to reveal all of this, being very hard to verify. Therefore, he can only work even harder in his search. The harder he works, the better it will naturally be for us. He is Broad Creed Mountain's current first seat elder of the disciplinary hall. The only people of Broad Creed Mountain who can suppress him now are 2 old, overcautious people. As long as Changzheng does not give up, Feng Yunxing will not be able to escape." Chapter 561. Huang Jie kept the heaven-spying orb. Sitting down in the meditative position, his hands on his knees, the decimating abyss causing trouble, the East Sea fighting twice, the Earth domain dying once. With Broad Creed Mountain's current talent dwindling, Changzheng can go all out, helping us as well as himself. Huang Su said, after these few battles, everyone has suffered a great blow to their vitality. This generation of the Sacred Sun Clan's 7 reigning sons was virtually all dead, having been replaced over and over again. Even some of the new replacements had perished. Huang Jia continued. Even if Yan Di, Yuan, Zheng Feng, Fang Zhuan, and Yan Zhaoga are all no longer here, Feng Yunxing's position in Broad Creed Mountain is actually still stable. If it was someone suspected of colluding with our Sacred Sun Clan and murdering their master, even if they are not slain or crippled of their martial arts, they would also be thrown into the heaven-sealing gorge to await trial. Unless there is irrefutable evidence, whoever is in charge of Broad Creed Mountain will not be able to bear Feng Yunxing. However, not killing her does not mean that she can still participate in this year's extreme Yin bout stably. Huang Jia said mildly, I have a general understanding of Broad Creed Mountain's so-called moderate faction. They do not dare to take a risk on Feng Yunxing, most likely placing their hopes on Turbid Wave Pavilion. They are waiting for Yan Di. Speaking of this, how are things over at the East Sea? Is there a way? Huang Jia asked. His father Huang Su shook his head slightly. I am not confident. Huang Jia fell into a rare silence as he sighed. We can only use our final method. Huang Su shook his head, changing the topic. It is fine as long as everything goes according to plan. It is just that will Hong Jiechi and that Yin Luhua reveal a flaw. If that flaw is too obvious, Changzheng will not be able to help them. Huang Jia answered, no one can guarantee that nothing will go wrong with the plan. Still, there shouldn't be any problems. Hong Jiechi and Yin Luhua were complete strangers before. As long as they stubbornly clung to that scene of the Blood Soul Recollection ceremony, they would not have interacted at other times. The person who saved that Yin Luhua back then and sent her to Fu Enshu's side before informing us will not be allowed to appear within Broad Creed Mountain sight. Huang Su shook his head slightly. My original intention was to kill Feng Yunxing in the East Sea, but I didn't expect Marshal Uncle Meng to fail. Fortunately, it can still be remedied now. Huang Jia said lightly, if it wasn't for the fact that there was no one else, I wouldn't have hoped that it would be Marshal Granduncle Meng. He hasn't come out of seclusion for too long. Huang Su pointed at him and said, be careful with your words. Marshal Granduncle Meng has passed away. I was rash. Huang Jia did not refute and nodded his head. He bowed to Huang Su and retreated. He had only taken a few steps when he saw a figure appear on the side of the road, as if waiting for him. Junior Apprentice Sister Meng, you should be focusing on preparing for the extreme Yin bout right now, Huang Jia said calmly. No longer smiling, Meng Wan looked expressionlessly at Huang Jia. While the news from Broad Creed Mountain is unclear, has something happened to Senior Apprentice Sister Feng? Huang Jia did not mind Meng Wan's form of address. Looking at Meng Wan, he nodded very calmly. That's right. It is very likely that she will not be able to participate in the extreme Yin bout this time. Meng Wan looked straight at Huang Jia. Is it related to the Sacred Sun Clan? Huang Jia answered. That's right. Meng Wan was silent. Huang Jia brushed past her, taking 2 steps before halting and saying mildly, if you can always guarantee that you can defeat her, I will naturally not have to act. What do you want to do? Go to Broad Creed Mountain to stand up for her? That would only solidify the evidence of her colluding with our clan. Meng Wan swiveled her head to look at Huang Jia, who had his back to her, and did not turn. If I were you, I would continue cultivating diligently. The stronger you are, the more people will listen to you. For example, I need to explain a few things to you right now. If you become the #1 expert of the Sacred Sun clan and trample over Broad Creed Mountain in the future, it would only be a matter of a single word for you to protect Feng Yunsheng. If you want to take care of me and stand up for Feng Yunsheng, it would only be a matter of a single word. Meng Wan said slowly, I will remember. Huang Jia tilted his head slightly, looking at Meng Wan from the corner of his eye. Let me give you a word of advice. The more you show concern for Feng Yunsheng, the more it will expose your weakness. This is true for me, and it is also true for others who have their own intentions. Meng Wan's expression did not change in the slightest as she gazed at Huang Jia. Senior apprentice brother Huang, you are a smart person. I have always known this. But now, you are doing a very stupid thing. The more you show off your cleverness in front of me, the more guarded I will be against you, and the more I will hate you. This is not conducive to your usual style of attaching importance to practical results. Huang Jia swiveled his head to glance at Meng Wan, nodding slightly. That's right. I was a little too pleased with myself. Thank you for your reminder, junior apprentice Sister Meng. Saying thus, Huang Jia turned and left, watching his figure vanish. Meng Wan swiveled her head to look into the distance. Senior apprentice Sister Feng, she still did not understand the details of what Feng Yunsheng was currently experiencing, but she could vaguely feel that bone-piercing chill that resembled winter. Having once experienced great ups and downs, having now been within reach of the peak, she had once again fallen to the bottom of the valley. Lost and regained, gained and lost again. Such a rise and fall was enough to cause any person who had experienced it to go mad. Feng Yunsheng did not go mad. Looking at Si Kongqing, who had come to visit her, she smiled slightly. I really want to go see the scenery at the peak of that mountain. Sadly, it seems that I am not fated to do so, always rolling down the foot of the mountain when I am just a step away. Hearing these words, the usually cold Si Kongqing felt pain in her heart, reaching out to grab Feng Yunsheng's hand. Feng Yunsheng raised her brows, smiling. Relax, I won't give up. Even if the sect has no intention of letting me participate in this extreme bout, I will still persevere in my cultivation and improve myself. Making preparations and waiting for an opportunity, no matter how long it takes, is still better than not being prepared for an opportunity when it comes. Hearing her words, Si Kongqing nodded lightly. Feng Yunsheng raised her head to look at the moonlight in the night sky, muttering softly to herself. I wonder if the moonlight he sees is the same? Perhaps it was a coincidence, but while the flow of time was different, the bright moon was currently in the sky of the vast ocean world, and it was also a full moon. Yen Zhaoge looked at the scene of the bright moon over the vast ocean, not speaking for a long time. Standing behind him, Su Fei asked, What is it, Zhaoge? Yen Zhaoge shrugged. It's nothing. I just thought of a poem that I heard a long time ago. Bright moon above the sea, even the ends of the earth share this moment. Su Fei recalled for a moment. I've never heard it before. Yen Zhaoge smiled. I also can't remember where I heard it before. Pondering over the poetic words for a while, Su Fei could not help but fall into a trance for a time. The two brothers stood by the sea, gazing into the distant horizon. After who knew how long, someone approached. Swiveling their heads, Yen Zhaoge and Su Fei saw Bai Jingkong of Changli Mountain walking over. Seeing Bai Jingkong, Yen Zhaoge's eyes lit up slightly. Elder Bai has good news? Bai Jingkong nodded solemnly. That's right. Located at the Dragon Gate at the bottom of the original Jiamao mountain range, the current Jiamao Basin, the dragon chi within has gradually stabilized. We can now enter. Chapter 562. Hearing that the Dragon Gate had officially opened and could be entered, Yen Zhaoge nodded. Please inform your clan's chief Gao that I will be there very soon. After Bai Jingkong had left, Yen Zhaoge looked at Su Fei, Senior Apprentice Brother Su, Senior Apprentice Aunt Fu, and I will be leaving now. Please take care of yourselves in the vast ocean world. Su Fei said, "Take care of yourselves too." With the lofty prestige mirror already having recovered, Yen Zhaoge attempted to open a dimensional passageway with the mirror dimensional traversing technique, returning to the eight extremities world. As expected, the entrance to the passageway was within the Dragon Gate. Yen Zhaoge estimated that during this period of time, due to the distortions and folds of space, as long as a dimensional passageway opened in the vast ocean world, it would most likely lead to the Dragon Tomb. Now that he could enter the Dragon Tomb, Yen Zhaoge prepared to immediately set off. Leaving Directionless Island along with Fu Enshu and those of Changli Mountain, Yen Zhaoge's group headed northeast, heading straight for the distant continent. Over there, the original encampment of the brilliant Thunder Sect had already turned into a deep valley. The Dragon Sect was located within. Along the way, many pieces of news came from all over the world that the Dragon's Gate could be entered, drawing the attention of the entire vast ocean world as winds and clouds surged for a time. Yen Zhaoge was also concerned about that legendary burial ground of numerous dragons. Still, he discovered that he was more concerned about being able to return to the Eight Extremities world from there. He was lost in thought, and Feng Yunxing's bright smile appeared in front of him again. The brighter the smile in his memories was, the more overcast the dark clouds within Yen Zhaoge's heart were. Even when they parted before, perhaps it was because he knew that the other party was mostly safe, or perhaps it was because he could rush back at any time. He had never felt this way. This time, however, while Feng Yunxing's fate was unknown, he himself had remained in the vast ocean world for a long time, causing Yen Zhaoge to feel unprecedentedly anxious. Under such special conditions, some things that were just sprouts in the past grew rapidly. Perhaps it had always been there, just that he had truly noticed it during this period of time in the vast ocean world. Yen Zhaoge closed his eyes. After learning that Feng Yunxing was in danger, Yen Zhaoge found that the first thing that came to his mind was not how the extreme Yin bout or the extreme Yin crown would be. He also did not consider how such a change would affect the contest between his clan and the Sacred Sun clan. The first thing that came to his mind was to hope that nothing would happen to him. Then he thought of the Sacred Sun clan's killing material, courting death. Yen Zhaoge narrowed his eyes into slits, a cold light flickering within them, only disappearing after a moment. He groped around his shadow shrinking pouch, his consciousness landing on the things inside. The pillars of the Divine Palace were joined together with the beams of the Divine Palace. Other than that, there were also 9 dragon shadows circling around them, looking like 9 pillars. These 9 pillars, together with the pillars of the Divine Palace, supported the Great Beam. There were also lights and shadows flashing on the Great Beam, forming the shape of the roof. Although the whole thing still looked illusory, a delicate and grand palace was gradually taking shape. Yen Zhaoge calmed himself down and gazed in the direction of the continent and the Dragon Gate once more. It's rare to see your emotions fluctuate so obviously. Fu Enshu's sound transmission resounded by his ear. Yen Zhaoge was silent for a moment before he swiveled his head to look at her. Fu Enshu was also looking at him. "Are you worried about Yunsheng?" Yen Zhaoge smiled, answering candidly, "That's right." Looking at Fu Enshu, he smiled. "Senior apprentice Aunt Fu, it can't be that you want to break up the affectionate couple, right?" Fu Enshu seemed to be no exception to his straightforward words, as she was not very agitated. "I am not a very reasonable person, but this kind of thing still has to depend on Yunsheng herself." Thinking of her usual observations of Yunsheng, Fu Enshu sighed softly. "Don't bully my disciple half-heartedly. I naturally won't interfere." Yen Zhaoge pulled back the corners of his lips. "It's still uncertain who will be the bully." Fu Enshu did not argue with him as she gazed into the distance, slightly lost in thought. Yen Zhaoge shrugged, wisely not continuing to say anything. This senior apprentice and was clearly thinking about the matter of that year. It was best for him not to get involved in it. These years, the relationship between Fu Enshu and his father had eased greatly. It was best not to poke the hornet's nest once more. Fortunately, Fu Enshu did not drift off for too long before she regained her wits. She said, "The burial ground of numerous dragons. Just passing by a place like this, there would also be unimaginably huge gains." Yen Zhaoge said, "Whether or not there are any gains after returning to the Eight Extremities world this time, I will properly settle the score with the Sacred Sun Clan and the Heavenly Thunder Hall." He swiveled his head to look at the Northern Ocean clone beside him. Yen Zhaoge's mind jolted as he communicated with another shadow shrinking pouch. Within this shadow shrinking pouch, a large scarlet gold seal quietly waited there. It was completely silent, and not the slightest bit of spiritual chi flowed out. However, Yen Zhaoge was not in a rush as he silently pondered on the secret technique of the extreme Yang scripture. Analyzing it, they arrived at the entrance of the Dragon Gate. There were already martial practitioners of the other sects gathered there. Seeing Yen Zhaoge and the others appear, their hearts all simultaneously shivered. The chief of Changli Mountain, Gao Tianzhong, frowned. Myriad Sword Pool, Soul-Shocking Island, Green Snake Island, and the Blazing Wind lineage it looks like some of the nearer sects have already entered. Yen Zhaoge said mildly, "It's fine. There is no use in coming here early." Saying thus, not even looking at the people of the other sects in the vicinity of the basin, Yen Zhaoge directly descended towards the Dragon Gate. The people of the other sects guarding outside dared not obstruct Yen Zhaoge as they could only watch from the side as he, Fu Enshu, Gao Tianzhong, and the others entered the Dragon Gate. Changli Mountain also had people standing guard outside. The people of the various sects were not there to obstruct them in the first place. Instead, they were there to prevent others from entering to fish in troubled waters. As Yen Zhaoge strode into the Dragon Gate, he saw the space before him distorting unceasingly as though he had entered a dimensional passageway. The dragon chi at the entrance was no longer as shocking as before, as it had become much more orderly and stable. However, it still unintentionally exerted pressure on one's spirit, causing one to feel an involuntary desire to bow down and worship it. Yen Zhaoge's expression changed slightly as the light of thunder was indistinctly visible within his right pupil. Ah, while the brilliant thunder sect has been destroyed, not all of them have died. Genghui has indeed entered. The brilliant thunder sect had suffered an unexpected calamity as they had virtually been decimated, with only Genghui and the other higher echelon experts having survived. They could either cease all activities here and wait patiently for revenge, or risk it all in a final battle. The value of the Dragon Tomb was too high. If the brilliant Thunder Sect were to give up on it now, the gap between them and the other powers would likely grow greater and greater. While they had not had much formal dealings with each other before, according to the descriptions of the other martial practitioners of the vast ocean world, the Crimson Thunder King, Gung, we would not be willing to lie dormant just like that. With the opening of the Dragon Gate, he was more likely to risk it all. Brushing past his right eye with his finger, Yen Zhaoge smiled coldly. The Eye of the Thunder Emperor fragment has had a reaction. This bastard indeed also has a fragment of the Eye of the Thunder Emperor. Did he not bring it along with him last time, leaving it behind at the clan? Chapter 563. Regarding the fragments of the Eye of the Thunder Emperor, Yen Zhaoge had always kept them in his heart. If he could obtain more of them, he would be more than happy to do so. After all, the Eye of the Thunder Emperor at its peak had been a high-grade sacred artifact, far surpassing low-grade sacred artifacts like the clear Chi Robe, the Great Sun Heaven Measuring Ruler, the 9 Dragon Fingers, and the floating Sinking Sword. Of course, Yen Zhaoge already knew that if it was the complete eye of the Thunder Emperor, the environments of the eight extremities world, the vast ocean world, and the floating life world would also be unable to contain it. Unless the eye of the Thunder Emperor also entered a deep slumber like the extreme Yin Crown or the extreme Yang Seal, not unleashing its full power. Over the years, as Yen Zhaoge's cultivation base had risen higher and higher, his strength had also grown stronger and stronger. He had long since been able to wield the full power of the eye of the Thunder Emperor fragment that he possessed. On the other hand, the eye of the Thunder Emperor fragment was no longer as helpful to him as before. However, after obtaining a new sacred artifact fragment in the floating life world, the power of the eye of the Thunder Emperor had increased once again. Now, if he could gain more in this vast ocean world, he would probably be even stronger. Yen Zhaoge's right eye narrowed into slits, the light of thunder flickering unceasingly within as the fragment of the eye of the Thunder Emperor hidden within seemed like it might leap out at any time. "Let's go." His expression not changing, Yen Zhaoge strode forward as Fu Enshu, Gao Tianzhong, and the others followed behind him. In front of everyone's eyes, torrential dragon qi gathered and manifested into the head of a giant dragon. It opened its mouth and let out a silent roar. Yen Zhaoge and the others seemed to have entered the belly of a dragon as they traversed within. The majestic and domineering dragon qi intertwined with the filthy and decaying death qi, forming a delicate balance that filled the surrounding void. Walking among them, the death qi was harmful, and everyone avoided it like the plague. However, with the dragon qi cleansing and refining their bodies, it made them feel relaxed and happy, as long as they could stabilize their minds and not be intimidated by the dragon qi. Under the cleansing of the dragon qi, their bodies of flesh and blood could clearly feel refreshed, as if they were receiving a baptism. As Gao Tianzhong and the others walked, they all gazed shockingly at Yen Zhaoge up ahead. Around Yen Zhaoge's entire body, black qi could vaguely be seen rising before being purified by the dragon qi. That was not because Yen Zhaoge cultivated in some kind of devilish art. Instead, it was because he had borrowed the power of dragon qi to temper his body, purging out the impurities hidden within his acupoints. The human body was too delicate. In the process of life, even a martial artist with a high cultivation base would unknowingly accumulate all kinds of small injuries. Some injuries were discovered in time and healed in time. However, some were not discovered in time and would gradually accumulate bit by bit. Usually, it was nothing, but when one's lifespan came to an end or one's body sustained a relatively large injury, one would discover that the small problems that had accumulated in the past had already accumulated to a point where it was difficult to get rid of. When a certain trigger appeared, a small problem would become a big problem, such as aging extremely quickly, or the recovery of injuries extremely slow, unable to be completely healed, leaving behind a lingering illness, and so on. At this moment, Yen Zhaoge was clearing up these small problems. Everyone wanted to do this, but none of them had been able to do it as thoroughly as Yen Zhaoge, achieving such remarkable results. Yen Zhaoge's expression was calm as he just quietly felt all the changes occurring within this dragon tomb. Because of the space-time distortion, time seems very chaotic. Some places are much faster than the outside world, and some places are slower than the outside world. It's hard to accurately judge. Yen Zhaoge gradually came to an understanding. Still, some are fast while others are slow. Making up for it, there shouldn't be any major problems. While he was concerned about the situation in the Eight Extremities world, Yen Zhaoge was still able to stabilize his mind, maintaining his calm as he was neither flustered nor impatient. The scene in front of him was constantly changing. There was the clear sky above the nine heavens, and also the boundless sea of clouds. There was the trickling of a cold pool of water, and also the surging waves of a great river, lake, and sea. In just a few short steps, they seemed to have passed countless places, witnessing various kinds of scenes. Attempting to turn back, they discovered that the scenes they had experienced earlier were not the same. Fu Enshu murmured, "It's the dragons who died here. The scenes engraved within their memories when they were alive, the places where they once lived. The number of dragons who died here is probably uncountable. That is why there are so many colorful scenes." Yen Zhaoge nodded. "It should be like this." It was just that these chaotic scenes signified that the space here was chaotic, very easily causing one to get lost within. The entire dragon tomb was like a massive labyrinth. If one did not know how to navigate it, it would take twice the effort for half the results. As they walked, Yen Zhaoge's heart suddenly jolted. From his shadow-shrinking pouch, he took out a few shattered dragon scales. These dragon scales had come from the old residence of the glacial dragon martial saint of the Eight Extremities world. They did not originate from that ice dragon that had been sealed within the ice pillar, but from the scales of other dragons. With the dragon scales shattered, Yen Zhaoge had always been trying to piece them back together, but with the difficulty being too great, he had still not succeeded. The disappearance of the glacial dragon martial saint was likely related to the burial ground of numerous dragons. Taking out the dragon scales, they had not changed. Yen Zhaoge did not grow hasty as he continued walking patiently within the dragon tomb. After walking for who knew how long, Yen Zhaoge suddenly felt a change happen to the dragon scales that he held in his hands. Gazing over, they were currently situated by the banks of a long river. The river water suddenly rose abruptly, while the dragon scale in Yen Zhaoge's hands seemed to be drawn by a formless force, descending towards the river water. It was like a fallen leaf returning to its roots. Yen Zhaoge did not stop it, just quietly watching as the dragon scale entered the water. A moment later, an even more rampant river water surged, directly forming a suspended river on the ground. From within the river, a dark yellow true dragon rushed out. That dragon silhouette was condensed of the river water and flowing light together. After appearing, it vaguely appeared a little sluggish, but it did not attack Yen Zhaoge and the others before it, instead nodding towards him. Seeing this, Yen Zhaoge instantly laughed, Fu Enshu, Gao Qianzhong, and the others all clicking their tongues in wonder. That yellow dragon shot out of the river water, sweeping Yen Zhaoge and the others along before rushing back into the river water. As it swam freely within the water, Yen Zhaoge and the others discovered that the scenes before their eyes were constantly changing. The yellow dragon carried them, traversing this dragon tomb. The dragon chi and death chi within the dragon tomb no longer had any negative effects on Yen Zhaoge and the others. Riding on the back of the yellow dragon, Yen Zhaoge suddenly felt the eye of the Thunder Emperor fragment within his right eye growing more and more restless. He attempted to guide the yellow dragon carrying them traversing the chaotic, shattered layers of space, finally coming to a halt amidst a world of ice and snow. Figures appeared amidst the wind and snow, one of them shockingly being the former chief of the brilliant Thunder sect, who had already been exterminated, the Crimson Thunder King Geng Hui, because of the yellow dragon. Geng Hui seemed to have not been able to immediately discover the existence of Yen Zhaoge and the others. He was currently focused on the person before him, residing at Changli Mountain, that Yen Zhaoge is of the side of good at the end of the day, even having obtained the 9 dragon fingers. However much we dislike Lin Qianqing, after his death, the strength of the side of good has already surpassed ours. If we continue to delay, we will only be sitting ducks and waiting for death sooner or later. Lu Shuo, what do you think? Chapter 564. The person standing opposite Geng Hui was precisely the chief of soul-shocking island of the 6 evil sects, Lu Shuo. Looking at Geng Hui, Lu Shuo said neither hurriedly nor slowly, "What do you want to say?" You might as well say it clearly. If you want to join hands to obtain treasures in this dragon tomb, it is not impossible. It is just that we have to first discuss how to split the treasures we obtain. If you want to join hands to deal with others, who is your target? That traceless cloud, Yen? He glanced at Geng Hui. The few of you together with Nian Chen with the 9 dragon fingers were still unable to take him down, instead suffering a great defeat at his hands. This old man does not like to boost the morale of others while diminishing my own. However, if it is just the 2 of us wanting to kill that traceless cloud, Yen would still be insufficient. Geng Hui said, "Myriad sword pools, Yen Gang is the weakest. If we meet Yen Gang, joining hands to get rid of him would naturally be best. As for that Yen Zhaoge, while he is powerful, if we join hands with Dragon Slayer Zhao, we will have a chance." Lu Shua stroked his beard, looking at Geng Hui as though he was smiling whilst also not. You really have your wishful thinking. What Lin Qianqing's death is still not enough to quell your fury at the destruction of your brilliant thunder sect, and you even hate Traceless Cloud Yen. It's just that with your enmity with Traceless Cloud, Yen, you want this old man and dragon slayer Zhao to make a move. Isn't this a little too well calculated? What is there for us to fight against such a ferocious person? Lu Shua glanced at Geng Hui. If you want to take revenge, you settle it yourself. Hearing his words, Geng Hui was enraged as he glared at Lu Shua. Of the top 10 transcending mortality experts of the vast ocean world, Geng Hui was ranked first, publicly recognized as the person most likely to become a martial saint. Lu Shua, on the other hand, was ranked at the bottom of the top 10 transcendents. In terms of individual strength, he was the weakest amongst the leaders of the 7 pillars of the righteous path and the 6 evil paths. Geng Hui had never thought highly of Lu Shua. Lu Shua completely ignored Geng Hui's emotional changes. The saint weapon, the soul shocking box, was his trump card. With the soul shocking box in his hand, he could actually suppress Geng Hui. No matter how dissatisfied Geng Hui was, he could only hold it in. Geng Hui calmed himself, saying in a heavy tone, "If we do not deal with him now, do you want to wait for him to join hands with Water Crystal Palace's Lin Shi and Myriad Sword Pool, Yen Gang? If you want to kill this surnamed Yen, I am willing to be the bait. I will bear the greatest risk." Lu Shua chuckled. "Do you think that Changli Mountain or Water Crystal Palace or Myriad Sword Pool would be able to order around this person?" Geng Hui frowned slightly. Lu Shuoyan said, "I've roughly understood. This person, if you don't provoke him, he actually won't take the initiative to interfere in matters. His mind isn't really on helping Changli Mountain expand its territory, so Changli Mountain truly can't order him around. Someone has taken the initiative to attack Changli Mountain. Only then will he help Changli Mountain out of some kinship. My soul-shocking island has never offended him, and we do not have a reconcilable enmity with Changli Mountain like the evil shifting sect and the blood dragon sect. Does this person really care more about the battle between good and evil? I don't think so. At the very least, even if he wants to make a move, he'll look for the evil shifting sect or your brilliant thunder sect who have clashed with him before. If Dragon Slayer Zhao doesn't provoke him, I'm afraid he won't be interested in the Dragon Slayer sect." Lu Shua looked at Geng Hui. "Since that is so, why should I make things difficult for him? Of course, the treasures of this dragon tomb should still be fought over. Fortune descends from the heavens for those who are fated to possess it. Still, if you want me to join you in plotting to kill him, then forget it." He paused for a moment before continuing. "You can try to contact Dragon Slayer Zhao. He might be able to be moved by you. Still, it wouldn't be because of the so-called without the lips, the teeth will be interdependent. Instead, it is because his position as the #1 expert of the vast sea realm has already been shaken by Traceless Cloud Yen. Dragon Slayer, Zhao has always been a proud person as well. I believe that he would definitely be unconvinced. Gung Hui shook his head. If you say so, we will indeed have no way of continuing this discussion. Don't regret it in the future. Before he had finished speaking, a voice seemed to resound from an incomparably distant place, yet also seemed to be right by their ears. Why wait for the future? Let's end this matter now. The expressions of Lu Shua and Gung Hui both changed slightly. They had actually not sensed the other party being so close earlier. The scenes amidst space changed as a yellow dragon broke through space, appearing before Gung Hui and the others. On the back of the yellow dragon stood a group of people. Their leader was garbed in white clothes with a black border at the edges of his blue clothes as he smilingly looked at Gung Hui. It was precisely Yan Zhaoge. Yan Zhaoge first looked at Lu Shua, smiling before turning to look at Gung Hui. Gung Hui's face was livid. The chief of Changli Mountain, Gao Tianzhong, leapt off the back of the yellow dragon, meeting Gung Hui, of the top 10 transcending mortality experts of the vast ocean world. Gung Hui was ranked first, while the second was Gao Tianzhong. The two had never directly clashed before. Gao Tianzhong had his own thoughts about this ranking. Moreover, while he was traveling alongside Yan Zhaoge and entering the Dragon Tomb this time, he couldn't always rely on Yan Zhaoge for everything. Firstly, Yan Zhaoge wouldn't let others take advantage of him so easily. Secondly, it would seem like Changli Mountain was subordinate to Yan Zhaoge, which was not what Gao Tianzhong wanted. He had originally intended to deal with Gung Hui himself, with Yan Zhaoge dealing with Lu Shua, who possessed a sacred artifact. Still, Yan Zhaoge waved his hands towards Gao Tianzhong. It seems that Island Chief Lu does not intend to make a move. Please then, we shall meet again. Still, Crimson Thunder King, please stay. As Lu Shua hesitated slightly, Yan Zhaoge had already made a move. The Northern Ocean clone moved, transforming into a gust of wind, as he instantly arrived before Gung Hui. Gung Hui roared furiously, his true martial avatar, the nine heavens blazing thunder avatar appearing, blocking before him as he faced the Northern Ocean clone. Meanwhile, he himself did not even look back, as he speedily fled. While he was already sufficiently decisive, Yan Zhaoge's Northern Ocean clone was too fast, as his figure resembled a great rock leaving the water, soaring into the nine heavens. He instantly passed by Gung Hui's nine heavens blazing thunder avatar, arriving beside him. Gung Hui grit his teeth, crossing his fists as crimson thunderbolts were emitted, blazing like flames as they were tough to the extreme, seeming even more violent than ordinary thunderbolts. The Northern Ocean clone punched outwards, scattering the crimson thunderbolts. His footsteps were obstructed as he halted slightly. Still, he immediately turned and advanced, closing the distance between him and Gung Hui before striking out with an elbow towards Gung Hui's chest. Gung Hui's nine heavens blazing thunder avatar now attacked towards the Northern Ocean clone from behind. Yet a green dragon roared as it shot out from Yan Zhaoge's sleeve, sweeping along the nine heavens blazing thunder avatar. Boom! The Northern Ocean clone's elbow resembled the tip of a great spear as it pierced towards Gung Hui's heart. Gung Hui was truly extraordinary, as he was still alive despite having suffered a blow from a martial saint, even possessing the strength to retaliate. His eyes looked on the brink of imploding as he punched towards the Northern Ocean clone's temples. Even if I die, I will heavily injure your martial saint clone. Without this clone, you will have to hide your tail and live like a coward henceforth. Gung Hui roared furiously, the purple light of thunder also lighting up above his head as one of the orbs flickered, emitting infinite thunderbolts. Seeing this, Yan Zhaoge instead rejoiced. Ha, there is indeed one. Yan Zhaoge was neither flustered nor flustered as he faced Gung Hui's dying counterattack. The light of thunder flickered within his right, As a purple orb flew out as well, being many times larger in size than Gung Hui's orb. Gung Hui's orb of thunder shook for a moment before directly shooting towards Yan Zhaoga's orb like a tired bird returning to its nest, next merging with it. To be continued. Chapter 565. Seeing the fragment of the eye of the Thunder Emperor flying out of Yan Zhaoga's eye, being much larger than his own, Gung Hui's heart abruptly sunk. This kind of power came from the same source. The stronger side could easily assimilate and devour the weaker side. Then, as expected, he saw his saint artifact fragment throw itself into the enemy's embrace like a child meeting its parent. The connection between himself and the saint artifact fragment was instantly severed. Gung Hui felt his heart bleeding. Having heard of Yan Zhaoga's battle with Fang Ken, he suspected that Yan Zhaoga also possessed a fragment of the eye of the Thunder Emperor, which was why he had coveted it. He did have the fragment, but in the end, he had contributed it to Yan Zhaoga. Gung Hui felt both depressed and resentful. If he couldn't escape, then he could only fight to the death. With the fragment of the eye of the Thunder Emperor having been taken away, Gung Hui felt despondent to the extreme. He could only temporarily put it aside as he went all out, punching towards Yan Zhaoga's Northern Ocean clone with his fists. Not only was he not distracted, he became even more ferocious. The violent scarlet lightning blazed like fire. Seeing this, Yan Zhaoga laughed lightly. The Northern Ocean clone's body was suddenly enveloped by a veil of darkness, devouring the crimson thunderbolts emanating from Gung Hui's fists. The red light dimmed, as though it had vanished amidst eternal night. In the next moment, a pale white lightning flashed and tore through the night. At the same time, it also blasted Gung Hui's crimson lightning into smithereens. Meanwhile, the Northern Ocean clone was completely unaffected as he viciously punched Gung Hui's chest once more. Gung Hui, who was already heavily injured, was directly penetrated by the powerful force. The Northern Ocean clone punched backwards, shattering Gung Hui's 9 heavens blazing thunder avatar before punching out again, mightily exploding Gung Hui's head. Amidst an all-encompassing rain of blood, this strongest martial grandmaster of the vast ocean world had perished within the dragon tomb, his bones buried in the same heavens and earth as numerous dragons. Yan Zhaoga watched this scene calmly, the purple orb formed of the fragment of the eye of the Thunder Emperor returning to his pupils. Lu Shuo, Gao Tianzhong, and the others also had complicated feelings. The battle between the two sides caused the meridians of the spirit chi and death chi in the dragon tomb to lose their balance, and time and space became even more chaotic. Under their feet, the ground seemed to be collapsing, forming a huge pit. A suction force came from the deep pit, trying to pull everyone down together. Yan Zhaoga's expression did not change as he looked at soul-shocking island's Lu Shuo. At this time, Lu Shuo could no longer even think of greeting Yan Zhaoga. He cupped his hands towards Yan Zhaoga, not resisting the suction force of the deep abyss down below. Protecting his disciples, he instead sped downwards, disappearing within the deep abyss. That brilliant Thunder Sect elder, who had entered the Dragon Gate with Gung Hui, was so frightened that he turned around and fled. However, Yan Zhaoga's Northern Ocean clone did not let them off as he pursued them unceasingly, directly capturing a late Essence Talisman Martial Grandmaster. Having been brought to Yan Zhaoga's side, Yan Zhaoga stared at him for a while before asking, "That martial art that wields the crimson light of thunder is the famed supreme martial art of your brilliant Thunder Sect, the Crimson Flame Thunder Light Fist, King Chi, World King Long Dragon, Yen of Emperor, Zs Yen. Yen, he, Sunflame Thunder Light Fist." Yan Zhaoga stroked his lower chin. "This is an unexpected gain. I was thinking that when I clashed with this guy outside the star-shifting sea last time, his Crimson Thunder was rather interesting, Never would I have thought that it would be related to the five elements creation thunder. The five elements creation thunder was one of the 9 heavenly immortal thunders alongside an instant's thunder and thunder of eternal night. It was ranked third amongst them, being even higher than an instant's thunder and thunder of eternal night. This thunder was derived from the coexistence of the 5 elements and the endless cycle of creation. The thunder light manifested all things in this world, possessing the great might of the Creator, existing alongside the creation of the heavens and the earth as it contained infinite profundities. Carefully analyzing that crimson thunderlight, Yen Zhaoge discovered that it actually seemed to be a profound thunderbolt that had obtained the essence of fire from the 5 elements creation thunder after it had been split into 5. Was it the 5 elements creation thunder that was split into 5 following the great calamity? Yen Zhaoge pondered. The blazing flames thunder before him seemed even more explosive than ordinary thunderbolts, as it resembled blazing flames. Not only did it possess terrifying destructive power, it also possessed the concept of warmth and light that the flames brought to all things, aiding their growth. Buy one get one free. I like this deal. Yen Zhaoge was in a great mood. Not only had he obtained another fragment, strengthening his eye of the Thunder Emperor, he had also obtained the blazing flames thunder that had been derived from the 5 elements creation thunder. If he could reassemble the 5 elements creation thunder, that would be a wondrous sight indeed. Yen Zhaoge swiveled his head to look at Gao Tianzhong and the others before pointing at the deep abyss down below. Let's go down too. Observing the spiritual qi flow, there vaguely seems to be the head of a dragon. Gao Tianzhong regained his wits, nodding as the other Changli Mountain martial practitioners followed suit. Thinking back to the past, they had still been doubting whether Yen Zhaoge, Su Fei, and the others would be trouble. From the looks of it now, however, they were all incomparably glad that they had been able to get along well with Su Fei and Shi Jun all these years. When the conflict between Shi Jun and the Blood Dragon sect had erupted in the star-shifting sea, Changli Mountain had also immediately chosen to support them. If anything had happened during this period of time, things would probably be completely different now. Amidst their thoughts, they followed Yen Zhaoge down into the deep abyss. Riding on the back of the yellow dragon, Yen Zhaoge quietly felt the changes in space-time within the deep abyss. The flow of time here was fast at times while slow at others. When it was slow, half a day might have passed here, while a few months might have already passed in the outside world. When it was fast, a few days might have passed here, while not even 2 hours had passed in the outside world. The chaos in space-time was so obvious, the changes so intense that one would feel as though their bodies and minds were being ripped apart. Those with lower cultivation bases would instead be unable to sense the changes within. The higher one's cultivation base, the greater their grasp of time and space, the clearer their senses would be. Yen Zhaoge analyzed the lofty prestige mirror. The dimensional passageway opens in the deeper parts of the dragon tomb. Still, the deeper we go, the slower the flow of time becomes. Also, the deeper we go, the colder it feels. Yen Zhaoge thought of the information he had obtained from the glacial dragon martial saint of the 8 extremities world that year. Numerous stars converge. Dragons enter the sea. Ancient, cold abyss. Reverse scale shocks moon. Ancient, cold abyss. Yen Zhaoge pondered. This should be the true appearance of the dragon tomb, right? Why then did numerous dragons congregate here, finally dying here? It is as though they were sending themselves to their deaths. Having grasped even more of the secrets of this place, Yen Zhaoge did not dare to be careless. Feeling the temperature of the surroundings getting colder and colder, he knew that they were getting closer and closer to the core of the dragon tomb. Suddenly, Yen Zhaoge's gaze flickered as he halted his descent. Gazing over, he saw a dim light flickering amidst the darkness of the deep abyss. there seemed to be a barrier amidst the light, within which sat a person in the meditative position. Garbed in black, he was already a skeleton, having been here for who knew how long. To be continued. Chapter 566. Space is chaotic here. Those who entered together might not have taken the same path. Looking around, Yen Zhaoge did not see the figures of soul-shocking islands Lu Shuo and the others. However, it was precisely because space was chaotic that this barrier was actually able to remain stable amidst the chaotic space of the Dragon Tomb, not being swept along by the flow as it displayed a shocking miraculous power. While only a skeleton remained within the barrier, from his clothes, Yen Zhaoge recognized him with a single glance as that black-clothed, middle-aged martial practitioner who had once come to the underwater cave of the star-shifting sea and come into contact with the beam of the divine palace before finally leaving, thinking of how this black-clothed martial practitioner had once been full of ambition, wanting to open the Dragon Tomb before turning back to deal with the beam of the divine palace once more, yet dying here in the end. Yen Zhaoge could not help but feel a little emotional. With just a thought from Yen Zhaoge, the Northern Ocean clone extended a palm, grabbing that barrier. The barrier hovering amidst the chaotic space did not resist external forces as it was sucked into the Northern Ocean clone's palm. Seeing this, Yen Zhaoge was even more certain it is a treasure that specifically deals with time and space. Being able to resist such chaotic space, it should be able to resist the destruction of the power of dimensions as well. This person might really have descended from the world beyond worlds. The source of the barrier's power was a paper fan in the hands of the White Bones. As Yen Zhaoge took the paper fan, a will emanated from within. As Yen Zhaoge intercepted it, a voice seemed to resound within his mind. I overestimated myself, underestimating this burial ground of numerous dragons. I deserve to die here today. I only have myself to blame. I only have myself to blame. What power does the sacrificial sacrifice of numerous dragons truly possess? It truly possesses the power to annihilate the world. Yet this vast ocean world will have to suffer a tribulation along with it. I cannot return to the world beyond worlds at the end of the day. Born in the dim darkness, to return to the dim darkness, death is not frightening. It is just a pity that I cannot see the destruction of these traitors of the Radiant Light sect. Regretful, regretful. These must be the will of the black-clothed martial practitioner before his death. Pondering for a moment, Yen Zhaoge thought, it is indeed so. I still have to be extremely careful in this Dragon Tomb. Otherwise, I might be completely wiped out at any time, even leading to the destruction of the entire vast ocean world. Ever since Yen Zhaoge had come to the vast ocean world and understood the situation here, he had always had a question in his heart. The flow of time in the vast ocean world was around 5 times faster than in the 8 extremities world. In other words, following the Great Calamity, the history of the vast ocean world had been much longer than that of the 8 extremities world. Under such circumstances, the development of the martial civilization here was not as prosperous as that of the 8 extremities world, even being slightly inferior. Afterwards, he had discovered that there were much fewer martial legacies and legacies of pre-Great Calamity times here than in the 8 extremities world. Many of the martial arts inheritances here were studied by the martial artists themselves. Undoubtedly, they had to take many detours and wrong paths, so it was normal for them to be slower. However, according to the legends of the vast ocean world, other than that legendary Great Calamity, there had also been many great catastrophes that had occurred in the heavens and the earth, each time bringing about innumerable deaths and injuries, causing the human race of the vast ocean world to appear to have withered. However, the reason for this was unclear, as it had been lost in the long river of history. At this moment, Yen Zhaoge somewhat understood that the vast ocean world that had been plagued with so many disasters might be because this world was the closest to the heavens and earth of the Dragon Tomb, having also suffered many tribulations as a result. Looking at that white skeleton, he sighed slightly. This black-clothed, middle-aged martial practitioner was probably not the only one who had entered the dragon tomb in search of treasures, yet failed. Meanwhile, every single failure could bring calamity to the vast ocean world. Perhaps the glacial dragon martial saint who had come over from the Eight Extremities world was one of them. Thinking like this, Yen Zhaoge's expression grew even more solemn. He lowered his head to look at the ancient, cold abyss down below, pondering in silence. Hearing Yen Zhaoge's explanation, Gao Tianzhong and the others all exchanged looks. Yen Zhaoge began appraising the folding fan in his hand, carefully feeling it for a moment before realizing, so the handle of the fan is forged from world wood. No wonder it can protect one from the power of dimensions as they pass through the wounds of the heavens. With this, even before reaching the fourth level of the martial saint realm, one would still be able to find a way to head to the world beyond worlds. Yen Zhaoge stroked the handle of the fan. Still, having established the barrier in this dragon tomb for such a long time, its spiritual energy has virtually been depleted completely. If we want to make use of it, some planning will still be required. Yen Zhaoge opened the paper fan, seeing a few simple strokes on its surface that seemed to contain a profound concept of the martial Tao. So it is the concept of the primordial darkness of the universe amidst the intermingling of light and dim. It is rather high class. Still, it should have developed after the Great Calamity, as there are some traces of the Tao tradition of the dim radiant sect of before the Great Calamity. Oh, wait, he mentioned the radiant light sect just now. It is also a power of the world beyond worlds. His tone was rather resentful. From the looks of it, light and darkness are opposing each other. Could it be that the Tao tradition of the dim radiant sect has split into light and darkness? Seeing the dim darkness sect's Liang Jichao inscribed on the fan, many thoughts and guesses instantly arose within Yen Zhaoge's mind. The deep abyss of darkness down below seemed endless. As Yen Zhaoge's group traversed it, time quickly flowed by. It was just that amidst these multiple layers of space that were fast at times while slow at others, it was hard to tell exactly how many days, months, or even years had passed. As they traversed here, Yen Zhaoge and the others even encountered martial practitioners of other sects, some of whom were allies, some of whom were enemies, some of whom brushed past. The further they went, the more they could feel that the martial practitioners of the vast ocean world, Gao Tianzhong and Changli Mountain included, were gradually feeling rather restless and uneasy. They had been in the depths of the dragon tomb for too long. Lingering within, they were also unable to determine how much time had passed in the outside world. If chaos arose in the vast ocean world, it would be hard for them to deal with it. While the various sects had all made arrangements before entering, having prepared sufficient forces at their headquarters, not fearing that others would turn around and launch a sneak attack on them. The most mysterious, inscrutable evil Saint Lin Qianqing had also already been slain by Yen Zhaoge. However, if things went on like this, it would be very hard to say if some unforeseen events might occur. Yen Zhaoge and the others had even already seen some people attempting to retrace their steps and leave the dragon tomb. After advancing for who knew how long, just feeling the temperature of the deep abyss gradually dropping to the point that even Essence Talisman martial grandmasters found it hard to bear, Yen Zhaoge's heart suddenly jolted slightly. He vaguely felt a somewhat familiar aura originating from the old residence of the glacial dragon martial saint back in the Eight Extremities world. Yen Zhaoge's spirits rose as he controlled the yellow dragon to descend even more rapidly. The deep abyss of darkness before them finally gradually reached its end. Meanwhile, what appeared before them was a shocking scene. Dragons. They were all dragons. Not scaly dragons. Not hornless dragons, not horned dragons, not any mixed blood dragons. They were all true dragons. thousands of them. It was hard to tell just how many there were. The scales and claws of the numerous dragons flickered, vivid and lifelike as their majestic, blazing blood chi intermingled with the destructive death chi that caused one's heart to palpitate, resembling a vast, vast ocean. All the dragons seemed to still be alive, yet did not move in the slightest as they stood at the bottom of the ancient cold abyss. To be continued.